this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, welcome to the calm between the impeachment storms.
Crudy, I can't wait yesterday, an historic, exciting day of testimony, the impeachment day number 1. And hell, man, tomorrow it happens again.
It starts earlier tomorrow. It's going to affect our good buddy Earl Ingram show, the impeachment hearing, the inquiry, Maria Yovanovitch. That testimony gaveling in at 8 o'clock Central Time, and we will have it bell to bell right here on the Wisconsin Political Talk Network. You know, all the fine stations, Dom. Talk 92.7 FM, Talk 101.7 FM. Even a good friend in Milwaukee who was on the station the other day said, oh, I didn't know we were on an FM. And, of course, our fine AM affiliates as well, 1580 AM WTTN and 1510 AM WRRD out of Waukesha.
Wait, what time does this start tomorrow?
8 a.m. Central
Damn.
Time. I know they keep moving the times. It's a TBD. But it has been, last I saw from our news partners, Westwood One, it has been set for 8 Central Time. We will take the coverage live. We'll do it live starting tomorrow morning at 8. But, Dom, I was happy to see Nancy Pelosi before the podium, before the microphones, before the press today. And as the Hill.com reports it, Pelosi, Trump bribed Ukraine, makes Nixon offenses look small. Allegedly like his penis.
Nice.
I'm going to read here. Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Thursday accused President Trump of bribery. We use this word with some frequency now, Dom, because I think it may be the accurate descriptor. Bribery. Once again, Pelosi accused President Trump of bribery in his dealings with the Ukrainian leaders, linking the president's actions to the Constitution's impeachment clause, even while emphasizing that Democrats remain undecided on whether they'll draft impeachment articles. Are we undecided at this point, Nancy?
I don't think so.
Undecided. Day one, I'm feeling pretty good, but I'm going to read. That is in the Constitution attached to the impeachment proceedings, Pelosi told reporters in the Capitol. She then explained the basis for the charge, which stems from a whistleblower's complaint that has since been supported by numerous government officials that Trump leveraged U.S. military aid to Kiev to secure political favor from the Ukrainian leaders. We've got some sound, right?
We do have some
Pelosi
sound. I got a few more quotes here also from the Washington Post. Let me just jump into here as well. And Brian, we're gonna need your help here. Let's do Pelosi first. Cut number 65.
Yeah, jump in, Dom. The water's fine.
On the impeachment on the bribery, if you would, please.
But I am saying that what is the president has admitted to and says it's perfect. I said it's perfectly wrong. It's bribery.
It's bribery. She goes on to say, as quoted in the Washington Post, corroborated evidence of bribery uncovered in the inquiry, and that the president abused power and violated his oath by threatening to withhold military aid and a White House meeting in exchange for an investigation into his political rival. Bribery, she suggested, amounted to a translation of quid pro quo that would stand to be more accessible to Americans. Talking Latin around here, e pluribus unum, from many one, quid pro quo, bribery, and that is in the Constitution attached to the impeachment proceedings. In a message to Trump in response to GOP criticism about, hearsay and secondhand, Pelosi said, quote, "If the president has something that is exculpatory, Mr. President, that means you have anything that shows your innocence, then he should make that known." Thank you, Speaker Pelosi, for defining that for the president. I'm not clear he knows, and he certainly doesn't have any.
Any exonerating, exculpatory evidence, if you will? No. Lead with what you got. If you got something that exonerates you, put your cards on the table, Mr. Trump. He's got nothing. They've got nothing.
Well, and the Republicans have nothing. Lindsey Graham, this is, it's all hearsay. And we heard Jordan yesterday. Well, he talked to him, who heard from him, who said that he said this. I mean, it's really, although you speak and you went through that litany very quickly, Mr. Jordan, it's really quite easy to understand. And of course, the breaking news yesterday during that testimony, Crudy, was that, the day after the Trump-Zelensky phone call, the infamous, perfect, powerful phone call, apparently Ambassador Sondland on the phone in Ukraine with Trump in a restaurant, overheard by a staffer to the acting ambassador, and now apparently overheard by another person as well.
At least 2 witnesses. They would not be hearsay witnesses. They would be fact witnesses. My understanding, at least one of them is testifying behind closed doors today, seeing if they're worthy of the public impeachment inquiry. Dom, here's another important point. The ambassador's cell phone call to Trump from Kiev restaurant was a stunning breach of security, former officials say. Ellen Nakashima at the Washington Post reports here. A U.S. ambassador's cell phone call to President Trump from a restaurant in the capital of the Ukraine this summer was a stunning breach of security, exposing the conversation to surveillance by foreign intelligence services, including Russia's former U.S. officials said. I strongly suspect it was Putin that directed Trump, and that's why Trump was asking Sondland, hey, did they go for the quid pro quo, the investigations of my political rival, Joe Biden? Did they go for the bribery? I read on. The call, in which Trump's remarks were overheard by a U.S. Embassy staffer in Kiev, was disclosed Wednesday by the acting U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor Jr., on the dramatic opening day of public impeachment hearings into alleged abuse of power by the president. I wonder how long we got to use the alleged part. Here is the quote. The member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone asking U.S. Ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland, about the investigations, Taylor testified, referring to the president's desire for a probe of the son of Trump's potential political opponent in 2020, Joe Biden, and the Ukrainian energy company whose board Hunter Biden once served. Sondland, Taylor said, told Trump in that conversation the Ukrainians were ready to move forward on the investigations. The U.S. Embassy staffer who overheard the call, political counselor David Holmes, is scheduled, to testify Friday before House impeachment investigate doors in a closed session. The security ramifications are insane. He didn't use the crazy word, Dom. Using an open cell phone to communicate with the President of the United States, said Larry Pfeiffer, a former senior director of the White House Situation Room and a former chief of staff to the CIA director. Here's the rest of his quote. In a country that is so wired with Russian intelligence, you can almost take it to the bank that the Russians were listening in on the call.
Of course they were.
And that was probably in the Oval Office. The impromptu Sondland-Trump conversation took place a day after the official call, July 25th, between Trump and the Ukrainian president, Vladimir Zelensky, in which Trump had pressed for investigations. Zelensky, at that time, was eager to secure a White House visit. The Trump-Zelensky call and the pressure on the authorities in Kiev to conduct investigations that could aid Trump's 2020 campaign are at the heart of the impeachment hearings. And, Dom, it's also noteworthy in that ambassadors typically don't pick up the phone and call presidents. They never do to discuss Ukraine policy. Former U.S. ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, said in a tweet, doing so on a cell phone from Kiev means the whole world was listening in. Kind of like right now, Dom.
Crudy, it's not the first time. Again, from the Washington Post piece, Russia has already shown its ability to monitor U.S. diplomats' call in Kyiv, and the Kremlin has no hesitation in leaking them when it suits its interest. For example, Crudy, in early 2014, an intercepted phone conversation between then Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs Victoria Nuland and then Ambassador to the Ukraine Jeffrey Pyatt appeared on YouTube. On the call, Nuland was heard referring dismissively to slow-moving European Union efforts to address a looming political and economic in Ukraine. F the EU, she said. She was also heard assessing the political skills of Ukrainian opposition figures with unusual candor. The leaked call was embarrassing to Washington and appeared to be an effort by Moscow to drive a wedge between the U.S. and the European Union. The State Department acknowledged the call was authentic, and Nuland apologized to EU officials, but U.S. officials were quick to blame Russia for the leak, describing it as a form of information warfare. I wonder if we're going to get some more information warfare from the Russians. Hey, Russia, if you're listening, how about releasing some of Trump's phone calls? I continue. Calling a president from a cell phone violates protocols set up to protect senior administration officials' communications. Here's a quote. "It's indicative of a lack of concern for operational security," said a former senior U.S. intelligence official who spoke on the condition of anonymity. He said, senior officials, he said, are routinely briefed on the threats to their communications. You could assume that talking on an unencrypted line from a foreign country would be on that list. It's also dangerous for a president.
Sorry, didn't take the class. Skip that day.
It's also dangerous for a president to take an off-the-books call like that, Pfeiffer said. That is why call logs are kept. Without them, someone could assert that the president said something on a call, and the log protects the president's ability to deny something happened. Good bureaucratic record keeping is a protection for someone in the position of the president. This is not the first time questions have arisen over Trump's unorthodox phone use. He's been known to give his personal cell phone number to other world leaders, despite aides warning that his cell phone calls are not secure. Russia and China in particular have targeted his personal calls, the New York Times reported. In general, Trump has appeared unusually cavalier about operational security. In February of 2017, remember this one, at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, on an open terrace in full view of other diners, Trump and Japan Prime Minister Shinzo Abe had a sensitive discussion about how to respond to a ballistic missile test by North Korea. Trump don't care.
He doesn't even understand the concept of plausible deniability.
He doesn't care. It does not matter to him. It's absolutely irrelevant. He doesn't give a damn.
That's something he could learn from Mike Pence. Mike Pence never in the company of another woman without mother in the room.
Mother. Yeah, but Mike Pence was using an AOL account that got hacked.
Come back with us. I understand. Trump may have some dirt on Pence as well. Sort of an impeachment insurance policy.
What?
I saw it out there.
Oh, come on.
It's in the news. It's in the headlines. I'm teasing it now. I'm teasing it. More Devil's Advocates on the other side. Plenty of time for your calls today. 844-967-2789. It is freaking crazy.
He called me. I didn't call him. I will call them from now on losers, because that's what they are. They're losers.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union Yes.
Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers must veto Senate Bill 386. Since 2015, it has been a felony to trespass on property owned, operated, or leased by a petroleum company that is considered critical infrastructure. That means protections are already in place for those employees from trespassing and property damage. Now, SB 386 wants to include all properties held by the oil and gas industry in the state. That means you could be charged with a felony for protesting climate change at the corporate headquarters of a petroleum company. Current laws already protect those industry employees, and we do not need any further harsh criminal penalties stifling our free speech. Call Governor Tony Evers at 608-266-1212 and tell him to stand up to the American Petroleum Institute and their paid minions and stand with the people of Wisconsin and our protected First Amendment rights. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Tune in to Matt Flynn Direct, weekdays from 2 to 3 on WRRD 1510 AM and Talk 92.7 FM Madison. We'll be covering all politics, national to local, from a Wisconsin perspective. This is an open mic, no holds barred, call on any political subject. That's Matt Flynn Direct, weekdays 2 to 3 on WRRD 1510 AM and Talk 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Cut you down.
Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. And you can hit us up on the phones, toll free, talk or text, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I know you're into instant gratification, so I won't tease you for long. Here's the headline. A telling moment from the impeachment hearing suggests Trump has an insurance policy on Mike Pence. Amanda Marcotte. I found this one at the Raw Story. Why don't Republicans just give up and cut Donald Trump loose? The question has been on the minds of most political observers since the beginning of Trump's presidency. And it's only grown more intense in the wake of scandal after scandal after scandal, in which the lying, cheating, grifting, thieving sleazebag who bigoted his way into the White House continues to make fools of everyone who supports and defends him. And yes, I am looking at you, Scott Walker. I read on, Dom. The mystery only deepened after the first day of public impeachment hearings on Wednesday, when the only answer Republicans had in the face of truly overwhelming evidence of Trump's criminality was to issue a torrent of nihilistic nonsense that didn't even try to make sense. While Rep. Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio, seemed to be getting a Christian Bale and the American Psycho sense of joy from all the lying, many other Republicans seemed confused, tired, or flailing. Trump can wear out even, pardon me, my phone just jumped. Trump can wear out even the notoriously sturdy ability to lie that defines the modern Republican politician. It can't feel great constantly debasing themselves for a man who never shows gratitude but only keeps upping the ante, seeing how many more crimes he can commit that they'll cover up. The typical answer most pundits look to is this idea that Trump's wild popularity with the almighty base protects him. Other elected Republicans are afraid that loyalty to Trump exceeds loyalty to party, and they would lose any conflict between the two. There's reason to be skeptical of this view. As the blogger Atrios pointed out, Sarah Palin was once treated as the most important voice in politics, and now she's a trivia question. And therefore, the GOP could drop their latest messiah, and 5 minutes later, no one would remember. Truthfully, the same would happen if the Republicans decided en masse to kick Trump to the curb. Their base would go along, and many of them would probably also be quietly relieved to quit pretending that Trump is the voice worthy of respect. But there's a strong alternative explanation, Dom. Republicans have a good reason to fear that if Trump goes down, he's taken Vice President Mike Pence with him. If that happens, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, who is third in line under the Constitution, would become president. Republicans may be genuinely worried that they can't lose Trump to curb without losing the White House entirely. That might initially sound odd since Pence's name has come up only rarely in the discussion of the Ukraine scandal. He is barely mentioned during the many hours of testimony from Ambassador Bill Taylor, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State George Kent on Wednesday. But even though that mention of Pence was brief, if one reads between the lines a bit, I'm getting really sick of this pop-up ad. It is also illuminating. In his opening statement, Taylor said that on September 1st, Trump suddenly canceled a meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky, claiming Hurricane Dorian as an excuse. In reality, Trump played golf. In his stead, Trump sent Mike Pence. Taylor, who received a readout of the meeting, said that Zelensky asked right away about the military aid that Trump was withholding, aid that Trump was clearly using as leverage to extort Zelensky to back up Trump's conspiracy theory about his presumed Democratic 2020 opponent, Joe Biden. Pence did not respond substantively, Taylor recounted, but did say that Trump wanted the Ukrainians to do more to fight corruption. To the average observer, that language sounds bland and unimportant, but those who have been following this scandal closely know that fighting corruption was Trump's code phrase for opening up phony investigations to damage his political enemies and bolster right-wing conspiracy theories. We know Trump doesn't actually want to fight corruption because his actual behavior and associations in Ukraine indicates a general pro-corruption point of view. And also because of common sense. We also know that while Pence might not be the sharpest pencil in the drawer, he is probably smart enough to know that fighting corruption was Trumpian code for do this corrupt thing for me or else. Trump's last-minute delegation of this task to Pence has been understood as part of his larger campaign to intimidate Zelensky into doing his bidding, but it might also have served another function, to implicate Pence in the extortion scheme against Ukraine. This was right when Trump and his co-conspirators, mainly his lawyer Rudy Giuliani, were starting to sweat about getting caught. A whistleblower complaint had been filed just a couple of weeks before, and career diplomats and security officials were starting to make internal complaints about the situation. No doubt, Trump's mind was very fixated on the CYA at this point. Let's see if there's a conclusion I can jump to. The conclusion is Pence is also probably guilty. And if you get rid of Trump and you get rid of Pence, you're stuck with Nancy Pelosi. And that is way too scary for the Republicans. Dom, Ukrainian corruption? I know what that means.
What?
Did they interfere in 2016? We'll tell you that one after this short break.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at domandcroot.com.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson.
Mueller, in an exhaustive and excruciatingly detailed investigation, found no evidence of conspiracy conclusion. Kind of end of story.
You cannot say that. The evidence they found did not rise.
I just said
the evidence they doesn't make it true, sir. The evidence they found, according to the Mueller report, did not rise to criminal conspiracy. They used encrypted data. They deleted data. They didn't have access to some of the Russian players. You didn't know that your president that you voted for was in negotiations to build a condo in Moscow and give Putin a cherry on top.
Just dropped your pen.
I did. I get a little excited.
Calm down here, Don.
But here's a lot of things that I would say, yes, there was absolutely collusion. Now, does it rise to criminal conspiracy? They could not prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, that's not no conspiracy.
I'm just watching the veins pop out of your neck here, and I'm getting a little concerned about you, Don.
I'll be all right if you just answer the question, sir.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
Good afternoon. I'm Pat Pobletti, and our report for Thursday, November 14th is brought to you by Spectrum. GOP State Senator Steve Noss is saying there's, quote, not a chance he will schedule a public hearing on the Gov's appointment to lead the Labor and Industry Review Commission after Tony Evers referred to Senate Republicans as bastards. But first, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson criticized expected limits on e-cigarette flavors, saying the move would cause, quote, significant economic harm in the form of businesses closing and subsequent job losses. In a letter to President Trump, the Oshkosh Republican urged the administration to consider the long-term potential health and economic impacts. Said Johnson, quote, I am supportive of regulations that ensure the safety of consumer products and common sense efforts that prevent youth access to e-cigarettes. But I am strongly opposed to far-reaching, unchecked government action that stifles innovation and results in adults' freedom to choose safer alternatives to smoking. Additionally, Vice President Mike Pence has rescheduled his visit to Marinette Marine for November 20th after he canceled a previously planned visit to the Wisconsin plant. Pence was supposed to make the trip on October 23rd, but rescheduled so he could stay in Washington, D.C. for President Trump's remarks on the situation at the Syria border at the time. Pence still made it to Wisconsin that day for a visit to Uline in Pleasant Prairie. Next week, Pence will tour the shipbuilding plant and deliver remarks. The former Indiana Gov will then travel to Indianapolis to speak at the Strata Education Network National Symposium Welcome Reception. Finally, Noss's office shared with reporters and others the Whitewater Republicans' emailed response to Zach Madden, the Gov's legislative liaison, after he inquired whether Michael Gillick's nomination to be commissioner would be on the agenda for the Labor and Regulatory Reform Committee when it meets on December 10th and 17th. Said Noss, quote, as one of the individuals in the state senate that Governor Evers considers to be a, quote, bastard, amoral, stupid, and a political assassin, my response is respectably not a chance. For WisPolitics Midday, sponsored by Spectrum, I'm Pat Pobletti.
This has been WisPolitics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit wispolitics.com.
More power, more fight, the most heart. Gingras, Thompson & Walks is more than a law firm. We're family. We believe in doing our best to help people in need and right the wrong that's occurred. For more than 35 years, we've helped thousands of clients across the state of Wisconsin get the justice they deserve. Our proven track record of success isn't based solely on our knowledge of the judicial system. Rather, we make it our priority to get to know our clients and their cases so we can best represent them. Gingras, Thompson & Walks. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, I consider today the calm between the impeachment storms. Wednesday testimony, obviously. I thought there were some bombshells. We now know from today's headline there was at least a second listener on the Trump-Sondland phone call, and I don't mean Putin and the KGB.
Right.
There was a second listener from the U.S. government. Closed-door testimony will happen on Friday. We'll also have Maria Yovanovitch tomorrow morning beginning at 8 o'clock Central Time all across the Wisconsin Political Talk Network. And we talked about Nancy Pelosi today calling it bribery. It's bribery. Well, we agree. And maybe, just maybe, Mike Pence is up to his albino eyebrows as well. And you've got a little more supporting information.
Well, we're going to talk about insurance policies. Perhaps this Giuliani article in The Guardian would be appropriate. But let me just react briefly to the Raw story and the Pence. I mean, do you believe for a minute that Pence would go down with the ship? I mean, I think Pence, I don't know. I would assume that you kind of know when you're with Trump.
I assume Mike Pence never goes down.
Oh, poor mother. I assume that he would try to insulate himself. I mean, you gotta think that they know they're dealing with a guy who has limited moral capacity, right? So if Pence goes out there and relays the message from Trump, he can perhaps isolate himself enough. Well, we're talking about general corruption, right? This is now where Ron Johnson, everyone's saying general corruption. So perhaps, but I don't think that Pence would go down unless Pence also has blood on his hands. I think as soon as they see an opportunity, and I've said this years ago, Crudy, when he got elected, they will throw Trump under the bus as soon as they can. As soon as they see that the base is turning against him, Trump is done. Over. But regarding the insurance policies, Crudy, not just Trump maybe with Pence, but go ahead.
May I react?
Please.
Because I've never heard you be quite this wrong before.
Okay.
No, Pence is up to his eyebrows. Pence is absolutely complicit in this action, to my opinion. You think Pence has got the moral fortitude to somehow stand up to this corrupted president and do the right thing? Because the right thing
no, listen, it's
would
not
have
about
been
moral
to turn the guy
fortitude.
in.
It's about isolating yourself from the liability of others, man. And if yes, I do think that
I don't think he's. I mean, look at the example of Nixon, Spiro Agnew on down. They were all corrupt. Corrupt birds of a feather flock together, Dom. There's no way I would go and serve as vice president under Donald Trump. My personal integrity would get in the way. Biggest job of my life, I wouldn't give a damn.
Your duty to
Mike
the country,
Pence
your
said,
duty calls. Your duty calls. Would you not answer that call to protect America against Donald Trump?
To stand with Donald Trump? No way. So what I would say is Mike Pence has demonstrated he has no personal integrity. He just doesn't tweet as much. He's just not flamboyant. He's not a reality TV star. But he's just as morally corrupted, just like Scott Walker was.
I'm not questioning whether or not he is. The question is whether or not he is intelligent enough and his staff is intelligent enough.
I don't believe he is.
To try to isolate him and others from Trump's wrongdoing. That's the question.
I don't believe he's smart enough, bright enough, or has enough personal integrity to separate himself. He might try to create some sort of, carve out some sort of plausible deniability. He might have learned something from Nixon. But above and beyond that, Dom, no, he's all in.
And you think he's all in and he'll go down with Trump?
Define go down with Trump. I think electorally they both go down. I think in a Senate trial at this point, I have a hard time believing it. And I have a harder time believing that Trump would get impeached and then they'd come back and go for Pence in round 2. No, I don't believe that sequence of event will happen in less than a year. No way that happens. But ultimately, is his goose cooked? Yes, history will cook his goose. The truth will out. His aide is also giving public testimony coming up very soon. Haven't heard a lot about Mike Pence's involvement in this, but he's right there. He's right there, and I have a hard time. And Ron Johnson's got a different gig, but I have a hard time believing there's not some Ukrainian corruption blood on Ron Johnson's hands as well, because he strongly denies it.
Oh, okay.
If you say so,
okay, then.
Completely ignore the evidence.
I'm satisfied.
And Sondland's take, which was, yes, it's a quid pro quo. I mean, hell, Ron Johnson was in the Wall Street Journal saying, yes, quid pro quo. But then Trump told me, no quid pro quo. Come on, these are grown men. These are not unsophisticated people. He didn't pick up Pence at a bus stop. Mike Pence he's all in. They're all in. Mike Pence was wrapped up all the way back to Mike Flynn. Mike Pence was part of the transition. Mike Pence was right there when they were taking a big funnel and taking all the corporate cash, all the bought access to Donald Trump the day of his inauguration forward. I mean, this started during the campaign and it continued when Mike Pence had to head up the transition because Chris Christie had a little too much. And of course, Jared Kushner wanted him out.
Christie, prosecuted Jared Kushner's father. Well, let's get to this 844-967-2789.
I think Pence is wrapped up, and I think Pence is complicit, and I do not think he's smart enough to do other than, the most modest call me, don't text me kind of, precautions.
Regarding insurance policies, Crudy, The Guardian reports in a telephone interview with The Guardian in response to a question about whether he was nervous that Trump might throw him under the bus in the impeachment crisis. Rudy Giuliani said, I'm not, but I do have very, very good insurance. So if he does, all my hospital bills will be paid. Now, you can read into that all you want. A couple more paragraphs.
How much reading in do you have to have? I got some dirt on Trump. He throws me under the bus. I'm going to back it back up over him.
Asked about whether he believed Trump would remain loyal to him amid speculation Republican lawmakers could seek to pin the blame for alleged wrongdoing on Giuliani personally in an effort to shield the president, Giuliani said he believed Trump, who he has known for 3 decades, was a very loyal guy. Quote from Giuliani, "I acted properly as his lawyer. I did what a good lawyer is supposed to do. I dug up evidence that helped to show the case against him was false, that there was a great deal of collusion going on someplace else other than Russia, and then I stepped on the number one minefield, which is Joe Biden, who is heavily protected by the Washington press corps."
What did Nancy Pelosi say today? If you've got some exculpatory evidence, evidence that would exonerate Mr. Trump, where is it? Put your chips on the table. Let the American people know. And we're going to get to the callers momentarily. They're being patient. 844-967-2789. But I think we can dispel this whole Ukrainian interference in the 2016 election. We'll tell you what that means. When I was listening to that, the Nunez's, the Jim Jordans, I'm like, what? What? You almost got to go back and read a QAnon script and some Fox News and, figure out what is the conspiracy fiction that they're rambling about. Well, we'll dispel the fictions momentarily. But first, our fair audience on the phone, starting with Dick from Madison. Welcome back, Dick.
You keep talking that way about your friend Ron Johnson. I bet he won't come on with you anymore.
If Ron consistently listened to this show between his appearances, he wouldn't be coming back on anyways, Dick.
Oh, okay. When it comes to Mike Pence, I think you're both wrong, and here's what I think with him. I think he thought they were both going to lose too, and he'd come riding in and save the party in 2020 and run for himself. But now that didn't happen. Careful what you didn't wish for, Mike. I don't think he's seen it coming that they were going to win. I really don't.
Well, Dick, let me say this. It's one thing to say Dominic's wrong. It's quite another to say I'm wrong.
So what happens now,
you might be right, buddy.
But Dick, the fact is, he is the vice president, and we are where we're at now, and whatever was done was done. Right. What do you think his involvement is, and how do you think he shields himself if, the president goes down for something that he participated in?
Well, I think he's into it up to his eyeballs, too. And then you talk about honor. There's no honor when it comes to Giuliani and Trump. There's no honor amongst thieves. Either one of them would cut their own mother's throat to see which way she'd drop. They're horrible.
Only to win a couple bucks on a bet.
Yeah, you got to take some action first, Dick.
So, but anyway, they're both two peas in a pod that way, and they're made for each other. I just can't wait to see when it actually happens, and I think it's going to, the thing between Giuliani and him.
So do you think there will be, at some point, again, depending on what happens, but let's just say the trend line continues and things continue to get worse and worse for this administration and for the Trump presidency and the people that surround him. We've seen lots of Republicans over the last couple of years, retire to go spend more time with their families, right? A lot of Republicans we know from behind the scenes apparently not real fond of this president. So, given those dynamics and given how corrupt Trump is, I would imagine there is a tipping point at some point, Dick. Do you see that coming at all, or do you think they will continue and always to coalesce around this president to the end?
I don't. I think what's going to happen there is that it depends on the numbers. They'll put their finger in the wind, they will, and they'll watch polling on it. And if he should start dropping like a rock and gets down in the low 30s, then you might see some real action. Otherwise, they'll just hang on till the bitter end.
The day he hits 29%, Dick predicts he gets impeached.
No, 31, somewhere between 31 and under. Then he's toast. But otherwise, I don't.
All right, Dick's hit we got an over-under number. The bookie set the spread for us. Dick, appreciate your phone call. We got one more we'd like to get to this segment.
Let me just throw this one out there quickly. Polling out today, Reuters Ipsos polling, Trump approval at 40%, disapprove 58%.
So Dick Scott predicted about 9 points to give, and when Trump goes down to 31-ish or below, at least according to Dick's math, and I don't think he's that far from wrong, that will be the end of Donald Trump officially, because the Republicans will have abandoned him. And I mean the Senate Republicans. 844-967-2789. Wisco Paul, you're never wrong. Welcome back.
I wish that was true. Anyway, Dick made a lot of good points as usual. He's a good caller. But I have to agree with you, Crudy. Pence is in this up to his, whatever they call him, albino eyebrows. He knows everything, I think. And I don't think he can leave at this point. He's a lot like Walker, in fact. I think they're cut out of the same cloth, Walker and Pence. And I don't know how they're going to get out of this, but I personally think the whole GOP is, well, most of it anyway, is involved in this. They know what's going on. And I will say 34%, Dick, 34%, and GOP cuts ties with Pence. Although
Paul's betting the over.
Okay, the fear is what you said, Crudy. Nancy Pelosi would then become president. So maybe
that will save Paul. That will save Mike Pence's ass. But here's what could happen.
True.
Theoretically, since we're just speculating anyways, let's say Trump's numbers fall below 34 or 31 or maybe down to 29, and the Republicans abandon Donald Trump, throw him overboard. That happens right about the time of the Iowa caucuses. And then they got to run someone out there, and presumably that's Mike Pence. He is the incumbent vice president, made president by virtue of impeachment. And then he runs, and by, an inside straight and an act of an unholy God, Mike Pence wins the presidency. Well, then we might have to impeach his ass too.
God. Now I'm going to have to go drink some New Glarus, Crudy. Thanks a lot. Thanks for taking my call, though. Have a great day.
Thank you, Paul. You too. Now, Crudy, there is
stop by. I got some beer in the fridge.
I don't know how. I mean, if Trump is going to be impeached for this, and if the vice president is also involved, how do you? I mean, obviously, there'd have to be some other action, impeachment action, something along the way, or there'd be
the vice
a criminal. A criminal
shielded from
action.
Criminal prosecution?
Not to my understanding that he is. Not by an OLB ruling, to my understanding. That was only pertained to the president, as wrong as that may have been. So, yeah, what? Trump gets impeached. The vice president gets indicted. Nancy Pelosi becomes president for 6 or 8 months, and then we have an election. I'm okay with that.
I don't think that's one too many ifs. I know that ain't going to happen, but it'd sure be fun, wouldn't it?
It sure would be.
President Pelosi. I like the ring of that. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. You know what will never ring off my lips? Who's the new guy that jumped into the race for the Democrats? Deval Patrick. I will never say President Patrick.
Come on.
I suspect. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. More Democratic candidates for president. And we'll dispel this whole Ukrainian interfered in 16 fiction. More of us, more of you on the phones as well. 844-967-2789.
I think the White House could have handled this better.
Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
This is like a bowl of doggy doo. Put a cherry on top and call it a chocolate sundae.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
Talk 101.7 FM will be broadcasting the first debate of the Wisconsin Supreme Court primary on Tuesday, November 19th. Live coverage begins at noon with exclusive debate broadcasts from 12:30 to 1:30, brought to you by Teamsters Local 200. Tune in on November 19th for a debate with Marquette Law Professor Ed Falone, Dane County Judge Jill Karofsky, and Justice Dan Kelly. Listen live to the first debate of the Supreme Court primary on November 19th, only on Talk 101.7 FM, Milwaukee. Always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin on historic Brady Street. The Roman Coin was originally a Pabst Tide House built by Frederick Pabst in 1890 to sell Pabst beer. It was even designed by the same architect who designed the Pabst Theater. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's historic, pet-friendly, cash-only, order and classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Exclamation point.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find us there also. Toll free on the phones, 844-967-2789.
You know, Dom, I usually save the grievances for Friday, but I'm getting my ass chewed here on one of the social mediums, telling me that, you know, this host isn't progressive enough and your buddy Tom Perez is a corporatist shill. How can you even have him on the show? And I'm thinking, kiss my ass. Everybody's a critic. I don't know what you've done, Mr. Atomic Age Renegade, other than complain a little on Twitter. Come on, man. Come on. You're getting on my nerves, people.
Come on, man.
The new radio station's been on the air like 2 days, and somebody found it, apparently.
All right, excellent.
Want to tell me why I'm not running it right.
Well, why tweet it out? You can call us. We enjoy speaking with our audience, even some of the critics out there. Here's some of the best calls, 844-967-2789. Don't be scared. We don't bite hard.
I do. I bite. Don't be crossing me or telling me I'm wrong. I'm kind of tired and grumpy today.
Today?
Well, often,
yes.
But today, a little particularly today, Dominic, let's dispel this BS, this Ukrainian tampered in the election on behalf of the Democrats. And a lot of you folks watching the impeachment or listening on the Fine Radio Network probably scratching your head. What? Ukrainian tampered? Is this true? Do I have to go on Fox News? Am I somehow being excluded from the facts? Well, let's set the record straight, Dom. I'll start. Christian Carl at the Washington Post. The public impeachment hearings have just gotten underway, but we've already learned quite a lot about the arguments that Democrats and Republicans plan to make. A particularly revealing moment came in the middle of the first day's testimony when Stephen Castor, attorney for the Republican side, and oh boy, was he a doozy, Dom, questioned William B. Taylor Jr., acting ambassador to the Ukraine. Castor, and the information published by Serhiy Lechenko, former Ukrainian investigative journalist, and then he was a member of the parliament, about the Manafort black ledgers in August 2016. I mean, the very day that was published, Mr. Manafort resigned from the campaign. Correct? Taylor, I don't know, Mr. Castor, but certainly that gives rise to some concern that there are elements of the Ukrainian establishment that were out to get the president. That's a very reasonable belief of his, correct? Taylor, I don't know.
So he's asking the fact witness, Taylor, about what the mindset of Manafort and Trump?
Let me read on. Castor was, of course, referring to Paul Manafort, then acting as Donald Trump's campaign manager. On August 26, 2016, Leshchenko, the Ukrainian lawmaker referenced by Castor, held a news conference in Kiev where he revealed information about the Black Ledger, a notebook allegedly documenting $12.7 million in cash payments made to Manafort by his former client, ex-Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. Manafort resigned soon after. To Castor and other Republicans, Leshchenko's action was part of the conspiracy to hurt Trump's prospects and hand the U.S. presidency to Hillary Clinton by arguing that the Ukrainians were acting to favor the Democratic candidate. Republicans can claim that Trump was perfectly justified in pressuring Ukrainian President Zelensky to reveal the details of such a conspiracy. Rep. Devin Nunes, the top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee, had elaborated on the theory earlier in the hearing, citing the many indications that Ukrainians actually did meddle in the election. Assuming the Ukrainians had done so, he said, President Trump would have a perfectly good reason to want to find out what happened. But there's a problem with this narrative. It turns out that Manafort actually did receive money from Yanukovych, specifically tens of millions of dollars in income as a result of his Ukraine work, according to the text of the indictment filed by then Special Counsel Robert Mueller in June 18. That September, Manafort pled guilty to charges that he laundered funds and evaded taxes on them from his overseas lobbying firm. He's serving a 7.5-year prison sentence. So, understand, the Republicans' allegation is that by exposing the corruption of Manafort, and Manafort quickly resigned from his pro bono work, he was not getting paid as the campaign manager for Donald Trump. And when someone is not getting paid, you got to be suspicious. Everyone's got to pay the bill somehow, right? And if I'm not paying you, who is paying you? Well, of course, we know through the Mueller, Don, that Manafort was trying to make himself whole with the guy he was indebted to, Yanukovych, the Russian sympathizing former Ukrainian president. So, we'll get to the rest of this article.
There is more to it, and we got to get to it. But, Crudy, I want to bring up one part of this.
Yes.
Weren't they fighting corruption? I mean, aren't the Republicans so concerned? And that's what they're claiming Trump is about. And all the Republicans.
That's the cover story.
But if they're fighting corruption. Well, a lawmaker in Ukraine comes up with the black book of the cash payments by the ousted former Ukrainian president who's now in Russia. I mean, that is the corruption that the Republicans claim to be fighting against, right? The campaign manager of their president was involved in the very corruption they are now so concerned about.
Well, Dominic, here's the place where it breaks down for me. Manafort pled guilty.
Right.
Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Hour 2 is next. Many more of your fine phone calls at 844-967-2789.
Want to be more presidential? Tweet the Devil's Advocates at Devil Radio.
But there's nothing I can think of that I'd rather do than have Russia friendly.
That comment will come back to haunt me.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
All right, well, what does your church tell you about when people say that they're the second coming of God? My reason tells me the man is certifiable. I want your opinion, Gary.
I would say anybody who comes back and says that, I would say you'd be the Antichrist.
I am the chosen one.
So Trump is the Antichrist then, Gary, by that logic?
I'm not saying he is. But
he said he's the chosen one.
I am the chosen one.
Gary, by your biblical logic, Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Special report, California school shooting.
It was like bang and then bang, bang, bang. So like it was one just like pre-fire and then it was just 4 shots just directly after. Yeah.
A high school student who turned 16 today took a gun to Saugus High School in Santa Clarita and opened fire on classmates before the first bell rang. 2 students, one 16 and one 14, are dead. L.A. County Sheriff Alex Villanueva says 4 others were carried to the hospital.
There were a total of 6 victims who were promptly triaged and transported to the local hospitals for treatment. Among those who were transported, it turned out to be the suspect, who is currently in the hospital in grave condition, and he's a male, Asian, 16 years of age, and a student of the school.
Villanueva says the suspect shot himself in the head after opening fire on classmates. His .45 caliber handgun was recovered with no bullets remaining. I'm Jan Johnson. Open-door testimony in the impeachment inquiry resumes tomorrow. During the pause today, Linda Kenyon tells us Republicans and Democrats were staking out their positions.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy says Congress learned nothing from the hearing.
We did hear from the witnesses was that they had never spoken to President Trump. They had not met with the chief of staff. Their understanding, which is the foundation of the case for the Democrats, was based on secondhand information.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the hearing actually backed up allegations that the president pressured the Ukrainian leader to investigate Joe Biden in exchange for the release of U.S. military aid.
It's bribery.
A public hearing tomorrow will call the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine to the witness table. Linda Kenyon, Capitol Hill.
Attorney General William Barr says Huawei and ZTE cannot be trusted. Barr calls the Chinese tech giants a security threat. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 2 today. I'm Jan Johnson.
The
economic future of America depends on a solid presence of union jobs. The American middle class is the foundation of our local communities, and organized labor is what built the middle class. Starting right here in Wisconsin, need shall be placed on the side of workers. Hello, this is Tom Bennett of Teamsters Local Union number 200. Workers have a voice, and that voice shall be heard. From the bargaining table to the ballot box, workers' values come first. Better wages, affordable health care, and retirement security. Strengthening organized labor strengthens America. Make your voice heard. Join Teamsters Local 200. Call 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com. Check us out on Facebook. Join your brothers and sisters at Local 200. Make a difference. Union yes.
Week after the ballot count showed a 5,000 vote gap, Kentucky's GOP Governor Matt Bevin is conceding his race today to Democrat Andy Beshear. From one president who faced impeachment to another, former President Bill Clinton has some advice for President Trump.
You got hired to do a job. You don't get the days back you blow off. Every day is an opportunity to make something good happen. And I would say I've got lawyers and staff people handling this impeachment inquiry, and they should just have at it. Meanwhile, I'm going to work for the American people. That's what I would do.
Clinton today also urged Congress to take action on gun violence and restore a ban on assault weapons. Former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick is entering the Democratic presidential race.
The character of the candidates is an issue in every election. This time is about the character of the country.
Patrick announcing his run in a video today. I'm Jan Johnson.
You care for the house, the kids, and our future. A Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You care for the house, the kids, and our future. A Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez, I got to ask you, in what percentage did the fact that Real Resistance Radio, WRD 1510, the fact that you can come after bar with us on Brady Street, Tom, how much did that factor into the site selection of Milwaukee, sir?
There's that old saying, what's good for General Motors is good for America. What's good for Resistance Radio is good for Wisconsin and good for America. So it was huge.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
For 101.7 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. For 75 years, people employed by the city of Milwaukee were required to live in the city. That changed a few years ago, and the consequences have been significant. Thousands of people have moved from the city to nearby suburbs. An article by Mike Goucher in the Journal Sentinel says the exodus has coincided with an exponential increase in the number of residential units now owned and rented by suburban landlords. There has also been a significant decrease in the number of owner-occupied properties. Recent data shows that 28% of city workers now live outside the city. That number is closer to 50% when narrowed down to police officers and firefighters. You're listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back, hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom, we were just trying to dispel the fictions. Ukrainian interference in the 2016 elections. I got to tell you, I have been watching the Republicans ranting in the impeachment hearings about Ukrainian interference. I'm thinking, what the beep are they talking about? Well, thank goodness, Christian Carl at the Washington Post is allowing us to dispel the fictions, Dom. And it all revolves around Paul Manafort. You remember the coffee boy campaign manager unpaid by Donald Trump. And apparently he did some corrupt things. And when he was exposed for his corruption, well, that, of course, was the Ukrainians interfering in the 2016 election, because at the time he worked as Donald Trump's campaign manager.
Crudy, again, back to the piece. A problem with that narrative. I'll be a little redundant here, bear with me. Turns out Manafort actually did receive money from the former Ukrainian president, the Russian tool, Yanukovych, specifically tens of millions of dollars in income as a result of his Ukraine work, according to a text of an indictment filed by Mueller in June of 2018. That September, Manafort pled guilty that he laundered funds and evaded taxes from his overseas lobbying work for Yanukovych and other clients. And of course, he's serving a 7.5-year prison sentence. Any notion that Ukrainians made all this up out of whole cloth to influence the outcome of the U.S. elections is, to put it mildly, far-fetched, just like the debunked theory repeatedly aired by Trump that Ukraine was somehow involved in the hacking of the server of the DNC during the 2016 election. The Republican attempts to concoct nefarious narratives about Ukraine betray either a willful ignorance, yes, or a cynical will to distort the truth. Yes.
Probably.
The simple reality is that over the past 5 years, Ukrainians have had little time or resources to spare for worrying about U.S. domestic policies. They've been focused instead on the existential struggle engulfing their own country. In 2014, a popular uprising toppled Yanukovych, a pro-Russian leader and Manafort client, who had alienated Ukrainians by rejecting an agreement that would have aligned their country more closely with the European Union. That agreement symbolized the future that most Ukrainians wanted: rule of law, democratic accountability, and an end to rampant corruption. Yanukovych sought refuge in Russia, where he remains today. Moscow responded to his ouster by seizing the Crimean Peninsula and invading eastern Ukraine, all part of Russian President Vladimir Putin's ruthless plan to keep that country in the Russian sphere of influence. Lyshenko's Manafort revelations were part of the Ukrainian efforts to fight back and safeguard their country's independence. It is true that some aspects of the Black Ledger story remain unclear. Questions about the origins and authenticity of the documents persist. As Post reporters noted, Mueller's office did not introduce the ledger at Manafort's trial. It's worth noting, however, that a 2017 investigation by the Associated Press appears to have confirmed a specific payment documented by the ledger. The bottom line, though, is that the substance of Lyshenko's claims have been borne out by subsequent events. Manafort acted corruptly and worked to maintain the power of a Ukrainian leader who did profound damage to his own country's interests. Lyshenko's shed light on that reality. And here's the quote: Ukrainian MP Lyshenko exposed corruption in Ukraine. Manafort was involved in that corruption. He is now sitting in jail. Are we now arguing that Ukrainian MPs should not expose corruption in their own country? Asked Michael McFall. Back to the piece. Ukraine continues to fight Russian-sponsored forces in the east. 13,000 people have died in that war so far. The fight continues. The kind of corruption embodied by Manafort and Yanukovych continues too. The success of those two intertwined struggles remains far from assured. The United States has a clear interest in making sure that Ukraine remains free and democratic. If the hearings show that Trump's policies indeed undermine those goals, his Republican defenders will have a great deal to answer for. Now, Crudy, I want to go back here just a bit, and I'm going to tax your memory here, because mine is not so great. Weren't there texts between Manafort's children regarding Paul Manafort's work?
Where do you think that money came from? Dad's money.
Blood money?
Blood money. Yeah, blood money. And the son-in-law that married one of the two daughters that were texting back and forth, one of the son-in-law, I believe, is also either under prosecution or sitting in the federal pen for his own corruption. I guess the acorn didn't fall far from the tree, Dom. Or at least the daughter wanted one like dear old dad.
Does it bother any of the Republicans that they're defending the prosecution? Manafort admitted it. I mean, he's in jail right now.
He pled guilty.
He worked for Yanukovych, the pro-Russian Ukrainian president that caused a civil war in that country. He worked for that guy who's fled the country after the Civil War and is now residing in Russia under the protection of Putin. Manafort worked for that dude. That's all good. That's all okay, right? Right, Republicans? You're fine with that. So he comes over here, works with Trump for free, ? And so what? The people over in Ukraine, they find the corruption. They just, ran their corrupted president out of the country, and now they're dealing with the aftermath, and they find out that, he's got off the book payments, cash payments to guys like Manafort. And what? They let us know. We find out about it. That's bad. Don't we want corruption exposed, Republicans? Isn't that your story right now?
You know who else is working for free? Pro bono, if you will.
Giuliani.
Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal attorney who went to, the Ukraine to dig up the exculpatory evidence. 844-967-2789. Let's get to the phones. Chris from Sun Prairie, welcome back.
Hi. I wanted to, I know you're all about the impeachment, and I'm really happy that you're covering it, but I kind of wanted to go on a little bit of a different topic, if I could, for a few minutes. The courts today, we had Stephen Menashe was approved for the Second Circuit. This is a lifetime appointment. This man is racist. This man worked with Betsy DeVos. He's, proposed things that have slashed funding for schools, for anti-LGBTQ legislation. He's just a terrible man.
Is he the one that cried, Chris? Is he the one that the American Bar Association said was unqualified for his post?
Yeah, I believe so. And he just is not somebody we want. And the problem is there's a whole lot more like him in the pipeline. We've already had 20 judges that were appointed that don't believe that Brown versus Board of Education is settled law, and that's like the minimum standard. And my concern is while we're looking to impeach Trump, these judges are getting lifetime appointments. And, we're going to have a really difficult time with our court systems because we are having unqualified people that are being appointed to our courts that are racists. And, they do not believe in the things that most Americans believe. They do not hold our values. And they're going to be the judges that are going to be hearing our cases. So I just wanted to bring attention to this, and I was hoping that people would start paying a little bit more attention to what's going on with the courts, because we really have to try to contact our senators and get them to not vote for these guys. The last time, there were some Democrats that voted for them, and we did some actions in D.C., and the one senator whose office I was arrested outside of doing one of the actions did not vote for him today. So although we didn't win this one, if we could pick off the senators and get more and more of them to not support these guys, we could try to prevent some of these people from getting on our courts, because these are lifetime appointments. This will last long after Trump is gone.
Chris, I appreciate the call and the information. We know you're always the smartest girl in class. Here is something else troubling. I saw this stat very recently. Very recently, Donald Trump appointed some judicial appointment to the federal judiciary. Since Trump has become the president, about 3 years, he has appointed 25% of all the judges in the United States. And his favorite qualification, other than being on the Federalist Society list, that they're under 60 years of age, that they have a good long,
tenure
term of service on the courts. And while very troubling, I'm not clear what we can do. I mean, there's going to be a rush from here to the election. A lot of lame duck malfeasance, even after Trump is voted out of office, as I predicted, or he leaves office as Trump, I called you, as Dom has predicted.
How dare you?
I do feel bad. I'll be quiet now. Penalty box. 2 minutes for roughing. Major misconduct penalty.
844-967-2789. Thank you, Chris. Lee, you're next. Happy days, Lee. What do you got for us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. I just want to make two observations, and then I'm going to ask for your opinions. It's wonderful to hear all the enthusiasm on your side, but I haven't heard anyone say what a close call this was. You know, if the money hadn't been given to Ukraine by the 30th of September, they claim, I heard, that it would no longer be applicable, and if we wouldn't have had that person that gave away the game,
the whistleblower,
we hadn't had the whistleblower, right now we'd be wondering what kind of charges Yatchenko has got on Biden. They had a brilliant plan. It didn't work. But think about how devious it was. Don't you think we had a narrow escape?
I think it has come to light, Lee. I think that Trump had a narrow escape on the Mueller report. I think the fact that the Attorney General of the United States is so corrupted, he is willing to basically create whatever sort of obstruction to the law is necessary to keep this guy out of prison. I don't know if we, the people, have had a lucky escape yet, because as Chris mentioned, Lee, the damage is perhaps a generational thing. The damage is done. Even if Donald Trump keels over from a heart attack, one too many Big Macs today, so much damage has already been done to our nation, Lee. I don't know that we've, missed or escaped. I mean, Donald Trump's either going to win or lose based on his own electoral outcomes and the American people's will to get rid of this god-awful president. But, Lee, I don't know if we dodged any bullets. We just, found out in real time for a change.
Thanks for the call, Lee. I think we did dodge, I don't know, a bullet, but we dodged a pothole, certainly, Lee. Trump would have gotten away with this had it not been for the whistleblower. And this goes directly to, our standing in the world. This goes directly to our national security. If we're propping up Ukraine as a buffer against Russia, Trump's buddy Russia, and then Trump's efforts are to undermine Ukraine, and in the process, undermine Ukraine. Please, Putin. We've heard, conversations, or at least reporting, that Mulvaney and Trump were concerned, about what Russia might think. I mean, we have an administration right now that seemingly is more concerned about investigating political rivals and making sure that our Russian adversaries don't get too mad at us, if you believe the reporting. Yeah, I think we dodged one this time. But, the question is we don't know what we don't know. I can't imagine that this is the only corruption going on with this president. And the Mueller report showed that there was all sorts of corruption and collusion going on, and it's going to continue. This man and other presidents behind him will have no reason to not engage in that same behavior if there is not some sort of comeuppance like an impeachment. Thanks for the call, Lee.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. I think the man commits an impeachable offense damn near every week. Your opinions welcome here, 844-967-2789.
The courts agree with us, too. What's going on in this country? Judicial system! They'll go through court for years. At the end, there'll be who knows what happens.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators. As a small business, we understand growing pains. Those times in your business where you need more help to increase revenues, but you need more revenue to hire more help? Or you're ready to hire more people but can't figure out where to put them? At Madison Liquidators, in addition to offering office furniture at the most affordable prices, our staff is trained in offering superior layouts and designs. Come see us today to get started on your new or growing business, or view our inventory at madisonliquidators.com.
The economic future of America depends on a solid presence of union jobs. The American middle class is the foundation of our local communities, and organized labor is what built the middle class. Starting right here in Wisconsin, need shall be placed on the side of workers. Hello, this is Tom Bennett of Teamsters Local Union number 200. Workers have a voice, and that voice shall be heard. From the bargaining table to the ballot box, workers' values come first. Better wages, affordable health care, and retirement security. Strengthening organized labor strengthens America. Make your voice heard. Join Teamsters Local 200. Call 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com. Check us out on Facebook. Join your brothers and sisters at Local 200. Make a difference. Union yes.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker for Busted Pencils Radio. Educated educators talking education. Tuesday nights at 7, right here on WRRD 1510 AM, Milwaukee.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on all sorts of Facebook pages. We are also on Twitter and YouTube, and you can join us anytime at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I wouldn't mind moving away from the topic of impeachment, but I got at least one more contribution, and then maybe a late venture into the 420 topic, because there's some new studies out. Apparently the marijuana, very bad.
Oh, really?
We'll get to that one. I'll tease that one. All you 420 people, you know what to do. Just stick around for a few minutes. But Dom and Fancy Brian did a little extra homework for us today. Judge Napolitano went on the Foxy Friends, I believe, earlier today. And Napolitano, of course, a legal expert, or at least he's identified as such by Fox News. And the Foxy Friends, they're very Trump supportive, let's just say. So when these two things happen, when you got a guy who actually, and I would say Napolitano has been better than most at laying out the facts And the facts currently are not with this president, at least I would assert. But anyways, Fancy Brian, I think we've got this sound. If we could, I'd like to play some of the sound. And Fancy Brian, I know we've got 3 cuts. Let's just play them sequentially. Let's start with cut number 1.
Isn't it all based on opinion and hearsay? When you read the transcript, everyone has their own opinion.
Well, everybody does have their own opinion, but if you look at the big picture, there doesn't seem to be any dispute but that the president wanted dirt on Biden and the president was willing to hold up military aid in order to get it. The law is not on the president's side because the law says asking for a campaign favor, whether it arrives
but it's not
or
a campaign favor.
Right.
It's an investigation of a previous election.
Well, that depends on how you look at it. Are they investigating 2016, or does he want dirt on Biden as prophylactic for 2020?
Okay, let's just play the last one. A little more of Judge Napolitano, Fox News legal expert on the Foxy Friends, and I don't know what they're experts in other than supporting Donald Trump, Ducey and Kilmeade and Ainsley Earhart or Airhead or whatever her name is. One more, Napolitano kind of laying out the facts, much to the chagrin of the Foxy Friends.
The Ukrainian president didn't ever feel pressure, and he got his money. Do we ever know if he turned over anything about Biden to the president?
Apparently he did.
So that's not quid pro quo.
This is the worst shakedown ever.
Yeah, the delay is the quid pro quo.
Right. Judge.
The delay of 55 days, knowing that the Russians were at the border.
But if you didn't know your direct deposit didn't land, I mean, how is it delayed? I didn't know.
Only you could put it that way. Look.
I don't think Napolitano exactly agreed. I think that was Kilmeade there at the end trying to defend the president.
And let's not forget, I mean, listen, I mean, come on. The day after the phone call, we now have 2 witnesses who overheard Trump on the phone at a restaurant with Sondland, and Sondland saying that they have agreed to do it, to do the investigations, right? That's what we have now been told. There will be testimony behind private doors with one of those witnesses on Friday. So that's the day after. We also know that the president of Ukraine was getting ready to go on CNN and announce something. And then once the aid was released, once the whistleblower blew the whistle and the aid was released, the next day? And then the Ukrainian president cancels his CNN interview and didn't say whatever it was that he was supposed to say. You're going to tell me that you don't think that there was any pressure applied to it? I mean, if you're getting, if there's a shakedown, the one getting shook down, if they have a gun to their head, you know what they're going to tell you? No, there's nothing wrong here. It's like, you're like, hey, give me a signal, wink to me or something. Give me a code word because you're standing next to Trump and Trump, no, see, say it. No pressure. Of course there was pressure. And I don't doubt for one freaking minute that government knew that aid was being held up. I would imagine, and this is pure speculation, that kind of information will come out. If you haven't received $400 million in aid when you're fighting a war against Russia. You know these things.
Come back with us. We'll tell you more things that you either know or do not know. I assure you, one or the other will be true. Folks, we're the Devil's Advocates. We got time for you. Dial us up, tweet us out at Devil Radio. Call us on the phone, 844-967-2789. And despite the fact Dom never reads your text aloud, he does read them in his own brain. Just slowly moves his lips. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcroop.com. Podcasts and interviews updated daily.
How come, Johnny? Why? Say it! Say it!
This aggression will not stand, man.
Would that be obstruction?
Yes.
Ooh, I'm going to hit the pause button right there.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Go back to where they came from, help those people come back and show us how to do it. That was the full quote.
They didn't come from anywhere. They were here, dude. Are you employed, Chris?
I am.
Do you have an HR department?
Yes, I do. I'm a union machinist.
Oh, do you work with minorities?
I do.
if you walked up to one of your coworkers who was a minority, you told them to go back to where they came from, would HR have a conversation with you about that, do you think?
It depends on the person, really. I mean, some people are...
If somebody complained to HR about what you said, do you think they would have a conversation
Oh,
with you
yeah.
about that? Okay.
Absolutely.
But
Oh,
why? Why would they pull you off of your job to discuss this with you, and what do you think their beef would be?
Because they're trying to protect the corporation from lawsuits.
Lawsuit for what?
Discrimination, racism.
So if your coworkers, if you say it to your coworker, it could be described as discrimination or racism. But when the president says it to the world, it's not racist?
No.
Yeah. You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee. Always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union Yes.
More power, more fight, the most heart. Gingras, Thompson & Walks is more than a law firm. We're family. We believe in doing our best to help people in need and right the wrong that's occurred. For more than 35 years, we've helped thousands of clients across the state of Wisconsin get the justice they deserve. Our proven track record of success isn't based solely on our knowledge of the judicial system. Rather, we make it our priority to get to know our clients and their cases so we can best represent them. Gingras, Thompson & Walks. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin. The Roman Coin features weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, pinball, a pool table, a jukebox, and a great selection of craft beers. The Roman Coin is also pet-friendly to appeal to the canine crowd, and you can order it from several nearby restaurants. Regano's Roman Coin, 1004 East Brady Street on Milwaukee's East Side.
The Devil's Advocates, rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Do, re, mi. The first three notes just happen to
Terrible.
So when need to pulling through.
I can see listeners dropping off. Let's get some callers before we lose everybody. Betsy from Madison, you're up. Thanks for calling.
That will bring us back to do.
Terrible.
Hey, at least we didn't do Edelweiss.
For 101.7 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. The company that owns the Journal Sentinel is one step closer to being acquired by an investment group that would make the company the largest media company by print circulation in the U.S. and possibly the largest online news distributor. Shareholders of Gannett Company today approved the acquisition of the company by New Media Investment Group. New Media also owns Gatehouse Media, which runs about 150 daily newspapers. Gannett has a little over 100 daily papers. And the Bucks play the Bulls tonight at Fiserv Forum. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison tonight, mostly clear, lows around 20 degrees. You're listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, I know when it's 420 around here, you like to talk about marijuana or eat it or smoke it or shoot your arm, snort it, whatever you do. Kids today. Here's what you should be aware of, Dom. And as the consummate source for the 420 Friendly, I'd like to read this article. This one I find a little troubling. Vox.com. A new study found marijuana legalization leads to more problematic use. The lead researcher says her study isn't meant to advocate against marijuana legalization, but inform it. Everyone says look to Colorado. Right, Tom? They've been telling us that for like half a decade.
Let's wait and see what happens.
It looks damn good from here, but let me read.
It does.
from the Vox article, a new study suggests that marijuana legalization leads to more cannabis use and perhaps addiction, which I'm unclear even possibly exists, Don, but let me read on. Particularly among adults 26 and older, highlighting a public health downside to a policy change that now 11 states in Washington, D.C. have adopted and several others are considering. Probably not Wisconsin, though. The consequences could be serious, as Medellina Cerda, the study's lead author, and her co-authors wrote in JAMA Psychiatry, JAMA Psychiatry. Here's the quote. Although occasional marijuana use is not associated with substantial problems, long-term, heavy use, we're talking guys like Dominic, is linked to psychological and physical health concerns, lower educational attainment, decline in social class, unemployment, and motor vehicle crashes. What? Maybe the decline in social classes, we got radio industry down, but the rest of that...
Unemployment, why? Because the fascists drug test you for weed?
I'm not clear. I'll read on. In short, if legalization only makes occasional use easier, that's probably not a concern. But if legalization is leading to more use and addiction overall, that could cause real problems for individuals and society at large down the line. Cerda, who's also a drug policy expert, quote unquote, at New York University, cautioned that the results should not be taken to mean that legalization is a bad idea, but that the way the country legalizes should better take into account and try to prevent more problematic use and addiction. Here's a quote. This study is in no way meant to suggest that legalization shouldn't take place. It's a separate issue altogether. To that end, the study could help inform us about how to legalize rather than if we should legalize, making it relevant not just to people who oppose legalization, but to those who are interested in getting legalization right. Put us in that column. What the study found. I realize it's a study, Don, but I've been doing my own 35-year longitudinal study on this topic, and I disagree with many of their results. Pulling from the National Survey of Drug Use and Health, the study published the JAMA Psychiatry looked at how marijuana legalization changed whether people had used marijuana in the past month, whether they had used it frequently, 20 or more days in the previous month, check, and whether they had met NSDUH's criteria for cannabis use disorder, which ranges from problematic use to addiction.
Now, I want to clarify something here. Cannabis use disorder. What a frickin' joke. Newsweek also has an article on this, and they define cannabis use disorder is where a person's use of the drug negatively affects their life over the course of 12 months. They might struggle to cut down, use so much it makes it hard to work or fulfill responsibilities in the home, and spend a lot of time taking the drug and recovering from its effects. What? Cannabis use disorder? It just sounds like cannabis use. What are you talking about?
So long to get high.
Recovering from its effects? I mean, you use it to get the effects. I mean, come on.
And then you go to bed and you wake up in the morning, unlike some that use harder drugs, real drugs, not a plant grown in nature, but I read on. Here's the interesting part. The researchers, if you want to call it that, the researchers focused on the first 4 states to legalize: Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and Alaska. And I partied with some Alaskan dudes. You and I did at the DNC. Oh, they party.
Oh, yeah.
And divided the findings among adolescents 12 to 17, young adults 18 to 25, and older adults 26 and older. The researchers found marijuana use, frequent use, and cannabis use disorder increased more among older adults in legalization state than in non-legalization states. Maybe because you can go to the store and buy it. Among older adults in legalization state, past month use went from 5.65% to 7.1%. Past month frequent use went from 2.13% to 2.62%. And past year cannabis use disorder went from 0.1, cannabis use disorder went from 0.9 to 1.23%.
Come on.
The study also found a relative increase in cannabis use disorder among adolescents in legalization states compared to those in non-legalization states, but the findings were so small that researchers suggested caution. For adolescents, I think we need to take the findings with a grain of salt. Yes, like the rest of them, but I read on. We need to really track changes among adolescents over a longer period of time and across other states that are legalizing to see if that's really a robust finding or if it's actually due to some other third factor. I would point out, Dom, large survey, Pew, Colorado, thousands of kids surveyed, like 20,000. Adolescent drug use, quote unquote, marijuana use, down substantially, down about 20%. So I don't know where they get this insignificant increase amongst adolescents in legalized states, because legalized states regulate marijuana sales to minors, unlike the unregulated states, Don. You know, the black market states like Wisconsin. I read on. The study found no relative increase in use, frequent use, or cannabis use disorder among young adults in legalization states. So it's negligible difference among adolescents, and I would question the research. It's no change amongst the young adults, 18 to 25. So it's adults, the ones that we should have no concerns about because they're adults and they can do what they want with their bodies.
Yeah, and the cannabis use disorder, whatever the hell that means when the drug negatively affects their life over the course of 12 months, went from 0.9 to 1.23%.
Well, here's what the researcher Serta said about people that fell in the young adult category. This is the age where people take risks. People don't have a lot of responsibilities. They don't yet have a family or a stable job. Or perhaps at this age, legal limits don't matter so much, particularly for a drug like marijuana, which is more socially accepted. The researchers took several steps to validate their results. They looked at demographic and socioeconomic changes to see if they had any effect. They checked if marijuana use had been especially increasing in legalization states before legalization. They conducted statistical sensitivity analysis to try to account for other variables that they may have missed. But the findings held up. While the results for adolescents are small enough to warrant caution, there does seem to be something going on with marijuana use amongst adults 26 and older. Again, in legal marijuana states where they can go and consume marijuana legally. I read on. Still, there are caveats.
Yeah, let's hear it, man.
For one, correlation is not causation, and there's always a chance that the study like this, no matter the statistical checks, overstates causation. Maybe. Rebecca Golden, director for Stats.org, which connects journalists to statisticians, gave me one example of a reversed causation. It could be that increases in marijuana use or desire to use marijuana or cultural affinity towards the use of marijuana led to successful efforts to legalize it. The data is also based on self-reports of marijuana use. Let me say that again. The data is also based on self-reports of marijuana use. Let's not forget they're comparing legal marijuana states where there might be some modest social stigma, but it's legal, with non-legal marijuana states where it could cost you your job or incarceration. To answer the question honestly, I read on. That could lead to differences between legalization and non-legalization states if people are more comfortable admitting to marijuana use, especially frequent marijuana use, once a state has legalized. Golden caution, though, that the differences between age groups push against that possibility. It would be hard to argue that this group of adults 26 and older is more willing to report increased use after legalization than other age groups compared to before legalization. Why? Why is that hard to believe? At 18, in many states, is 18 old enough? I feel like I'm Ron Johnson. Or is it 21 for legalization of marijuana?
I think it's 21.
So young adults up to 21 would not have access, not ready access in a legal marijuana state.
Can't go down to the dispensary and purchase it over the counter.
Adolescents 12 to 17 cannot purchase in a legal marijuana state. So really, the only ones affected are those, from like 21 and up. Most of them fall in the category of 26 and above, and suddenly there's no social stigmatization or legal problem. Well, maybe I'm going to the dispensary.
Well,
Why is that a
and
problem?
self-reporting cannabis use disorder goes from 0.9% of all that entire population to 1.23% if you believe that. And how do you define it? Negatively affects their life. Okay, they might struggle to cut down. What? Use so much that makes it hard to work. Well, yeah, you can smoke too much, you can drink too much, you can do all sorts of things too much or fulfill responsibilities at home. I actually feel bad we're even talking about this, Curdy. Let me jump down to the bottom of this Vox article, if I may, because they throw out some other stats that I think are very pertinent.
Jump in the deep end, baby.
Serta was very clear. She does not see her study as making a case against legalization. Rather, she sees it as adding to the discussion about how to legalize. As states legalize marijuana, we need to be measuring both public health effects. We need to be measuring public health effects. It's a responsible way to legalize. Okay. She pointed out, for example, that there are plenty of studies showing legal drugs like alcohol and tobacco have negative effects on society. After all, excessive drinking is linked to 88,000 deaths a year, and tobacco smoking from 480,000 to 540,000 deaths a year. But it's rare that someone suggests banning the drugs altogether versus increasing taxes or improving other regulations. I don't want to hear. And certainly, I appreciate the efforts, but how many people died? Right. How many people died from marijuana? Zero.
But some people felt bad because they smoked too much.
Apparently,
right. They think they've got a problem with the chronic or a chronic problem. I'm not clear.
And that what? Even if you accept that premise, it went from 0.9 to 1.2 something. I mean, a 37% increase, okay, but still a insignificant amount of people. And granted, I think you're going to find people that can come up with a problem with anything. Some people just have the personality. Maybe there's something in the head. There's some people that just won't stop doing things. And I'm not saying that that's the drug. That's the personality. Come on, man. We've been, as human race, ingesting this drug since we found it. Sort of goes on, we can start to think about ways to legalize that prevent those unintended consequences, just like we would regulate tobacco and alcohol. Legalization, she added, has a lot of important benefits from the criminal justice standpoint. Thank you, I would agree. And I think that it could, if done well, have benefits from a public health standpoint. If it's well regulated, we could regulate the quality of the product. Thank you, I would agree. We could regulate the potency of the product. Yes, as potent as possible, please, in a way that we couldn't if it was illegal.
You know, the one word that they've thrown around quite a bit in this Vox article and in this study, addiction. Marijuana addiction. Does such a thing exist, Don? I mean, Bob Saget,
I don't think physically. I'm not a doctor, but I don't think you can have a physical addiction to marijuana.
You can have some psychological. I know I get quite anxious when I run out of marijuana. That makes me a little stressed.
And you know what cures that, right?
More marijuana.
Right.
844-967-2789. Calling all you stoners out there. Kurt from Madison, I suspect you may fall in that category. Welcome back, sir.
These individuals that write these reports crack me up. They must be purists. They never smoked. They never drank. They never, jumped into a pool naked. None of this stuff. And it's so easy to blow up the article. And Crute and Dom, both of you have done so really well. But here's the thing. Maybe the usage should be a function of society, of jobs that don't pay a living wage, where we don't have medical care, where we don't have employers that are total jerks, the Dom exclude, of course, and, and so forth. I mean,
Kurt, are you implying if you got a bad job, you're more likely to show up stoned?
Hey, we all indulge either for pure pleasure or all escapism. That's the reality of it. That's all alcohol does. That's all.
Well,
it's, fast
you bring
foods
up Kurt. Let me throw this one out to you. Another thing we don't know from the study of those people who, let's just go with the 26-year-old plus who have this, what do they call it, cannabis problem. This cannabis use problem. How many of those people, cannabis use disorder? How many of those people started using cannabis and gave up the pills? How many of those people started using the cannabis and gave up the booze? You know what I'm saying? Because if you have opioid use disorder, if you have alcohol use disorder, those things can kill you. I mean, they could kill you right now. We had a buddy right now just brought in like 4 cases of beer. I could go drink all those things. I could be dead by the end of tonight. I cannot smoke enough weed to kill myself tonight, Kurt.
Well, not only that, I always ask people to, because I do it. When you go to a grocery store, everything in there is a health ticking time bomb. Sugar's got its pause.
Sugar's like cocaine, man.
And why do they put the sugar in it? Because it's addictive. This is why it's there. So it's like, start focusing on big problems, not marijuana, tiny, minuscule problem. It's just a terrible distraction. And
come on, Kurt, somebody got a big research grant out of that study.
You got to say something.
Bastards.
Well, I would say this.
Kurt the Tony Evers label, man.
Go to the store and look up what the recommended daily allowance of sugar is. On the label, it's not there. Don't you wonder why?
You know what? I think I've got an epiphany, Dom, on why it's the 26 and over people characterized as more likely to have problematic weed smoking.
Cannabis use disorder. Say it, get it right.
You know why?
Why?
You're more likely to be in a relationship by that point. Right? I mean, it's not you saying I smoke too much. I don't think I got a problem. It's the people around me that claim I have a problem.
No. They have the problem.
As I see it. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. We always appreciate your contributions. Stoned or sober, we take them all right here at 844-967-2789.
Marijuana is not a drug.
Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Boo this man!
Get your hands on the jackpot.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
Talk 1017 FM will be broadcasting the first debate of the Wisconsin Supreme Court primary on Tuesday, November 19th. Live coverage begins at noon with exclusive debate broadcasts from 12:30 to 1:30, brought to you by Teamsters Local 200. Tune in on November 19th for a debate with Marquette Law Professor Ed Falone, Dane County Judge Jill Karofsky, and Justice Dan Kelly. Listen live to the first debate of the Supreme Court primary on November 19th, only on Talk 1017 FM, Milwaukee. Always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators. Have you ever shopped for office furniture and been completely blown away by the prices? So have I. In Madison, your choices end up being big box stores with inexpensive pieces that fall apart when you look at them the wrong way, or high-end interior design quality furniture that costs as much as a car. That is why my family and I set out to start an office furniture store with a different philosophy and 3 main goals. Get our clients the quality office furniture they need at the prices they can afford, divert sound office furniture from the landfill, and develop relationships with small businesses within our community and help them grow. At Madison Liquidators, you will not be quoted our most expensive pieces up front and scaled back from there. We will work with you within your budget to allocate funds where it counts. We're interested in getting you the most bang for your buck every time. If you see something you like but it's outside your budget, let us know. We always have ideas to help make it work for you. Call me today and let's get started, or visit our website at madisonliquidators.com.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, taking your calls at 844-967-2789. Fred, be patient real quick. I want to throw this one out there, too. Another Newsweek article. Michael Bloomberg on marijuana. Now, this is from January of this year. Legalizing another addictive narcotic is perhaps the stupidest thing anybody has ever done. What?
Not that he would have ever earned my vote, but
no. There's absolutely no way. Here's what he
Zero.
said. We have a different kind of problem in America. For example, last year in 2017, 72,000 Americans overdosed on drugs. In 2018, more than that are ODing on drugs, have OD'd on drugs. And today, incidentally, we're trying to legalize another addictive narcotic, which is perhaps the stupidest thing anyone has ever done. We've got to fight that. And that's another thing that Bloomberg philanthropies will work on in public health. Bloomberg, just go away.
Wasn't Bloomberg, didn't he extend Giuliani's stop and frisk in New York? You know, arrest the black people with marijuana in their pockets.
I don't know if you did.
Yes, believe me on this
I'll
one.
believe you on that. Bloomberg is not getting my vote. Fred from Cottage Grove, you are up. Thanks for calling today. Fred, what do you got?
Hey, guys. Congratulations on the new radio station.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks, Fred.
Anyway, now I called about another issue, but you guys are spot on with this marijuana thing. I guess that study probably didn't go in. If it was in a pill form, it'd probably be okay, right?
Well, just ask Robin Voss of Wisconsin.
Exactly.
You know, there's in the very same Reason article that mentions Mike Bloomberg is not 420 friendly, a guy, David Schramer, something like that. He is the author of Weed, the User's Guide. Here's what he says. You would need to consume 1,500 pounds of marijuana within 15 minutes to fatally overdose. I know Don would try, but 1,500 pounds in 15 minutes seems like, you know, you better have a big bong.
I was going to say, put it in a barn and just light it, you know, away you go. Have a party.
That'd be a hell of a party. The whole town would be partying.
Exactly.
Fred, I understand you got a Trump mailing, buddy. We only got a minute left. Tell us about your Trump mailing.
Okay, the reason I called is today I just opened up my mail. I got a letter here from Melania Trump from a nonprofit organization backing you-know-who. Of course, you know, there's a little form here to sign that you support him and give a contribution. Republican National Committee, care of Melania Trump.
Well, that's not a charity per se. And
don't
my
try to get a
understanding
write-off.
is Donald Trump has been banned recently from any sort of charity work for life, predicated on the fact he had a recent $2 million settlement for misuse of the Trump Foundation. You know, he was defrauding people.
Yeah, but
how is that not an impeachable
Can his
offense?
wife then run the charity? Does that make it better?
Well, as long as it's in the family, you know. Eric and Don Jr. are also banned for 10 years, as is Ivanka. Come back with us. The happy hour. It commences right now.
Do you want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page.
I've not yet begun to defile myself.
Be best.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
I'm State Representative Jimmy Anderson. Like me, 25% of American adults have a disability, yet vote at a rate almost 5% lower than the general public. If voters with disabilities turned out at the same rate, that would be over 2 million more votes nationwide. Your vote is your voice, so be heard. Elected officials make decisions on issues you care about, from transportation to Medicaid, but they won't hear your voice if you don't get to the polls. To learn more, call 844-347-8683 or go to disabilityvote.org.
This message brought to you in part by the Wisconsin Disability Vote Coalition. You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Special report, California school shooting.
It was too real, it was too terrifying, and it was horrible.
Searching for answers in Southern California as a student opened fire at his school on his 16th birthday.
It was Saugus High School in Santa Clarita, about 30 miles north of Los Angeles. FBI Special Agent Paul Delacourt.
We're once again here in front of you, and we're talking about something that no parents should ever have to go through, no high school student should ever have to worry about, and yet we're here to talk about it again.
During first period, says L.A. County Sheriff's detectives, the 16-year-old Asian student pulled a .45 caliber semi-automatic handgun from his backpack, shot 5 students, and then shot himself in the head. 2 students died, a 14-year-old male and a 16-year-old female. Why is still the question. There are rumors, and the teen's social media accounts are being scrutinized. Jim Roop, Los Angeles.
Security is in place at Saugus High, from personnel to fencing, security cameras, and lockdown drills. There are no metal detectors. I'm Barbara Cusack. In order to keep his personal and business taxes from public view, correspondent Bob Costantini reports President Trump is seeking help from the nation's highest court.
President Trump's other personal attorney, Jay Sekulow, says he has filed for a speedy ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, looking to overturn lower court rulings that Mr. Trump must release his tax records to local New York prosecutors who've subpoenaed them. A potential ruling could determine if a president has blanket immunity from criminal prosecution while in office. The court might also decline to consider the matter.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi changed her lingo in addressing how day one of the public impeachment hearings went.
I thought it was a successful day for truth coming from the president's men. Devastating testimony corroborated evidence of bribery uncovered in the inquiry, and that the president abused power.
Bribery is a term that's mentioned in the Constitution as an impeachable offense. I'm Barbara Cusack.
The economic future of America depends on a solid presence of union jobs. The American middle class is the foundation of our local communities, and organized labor is what built the middle class. Starting right here in Wisconsin, need shall be placed on the side of workers. Hello, this is Tom Bennett of Teamsters Local Union number 200. Workers have a voice, and that voice shall be heard. From the bargaining table to the ballot box, workers' values come first. Better wages, affordable health care, and retirement security. Strengthening organized labor strengthens America. Make your voice heard. Join Teamsters Local 200. Call 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com. Check us out on Facebook. Join your brothers and sisters at Local 200. Make a difference. Union yes.
The federal government says cigarette smoking has fallen to a record low in the United States.
Cigarette smoking among adults fell to its lowest recorded level in 2018, about 13.5%, according to a report by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That represents a drop of roughly 2/3 since the CDC started collecting data in 1965. The report estimates that 49 million U.S. adults, or nearly 1 in 5, used any tobacco product in 2018. Cigarettes are still the most common, followed by cigars and vaping devices. Last year's data, compiled before the outbreak of a mysterious respiratory illness tied to vaping, killing at least 42 in the U.S. this year. I'm Joe Ramsey.
The Senate confirmed White House lawyer Stephen Menashe as the federal appeals court judge, despite complaints by lawmakers from both parties about the nominee's record on immigration, race, women's equality, and LGBTQ rights. Menashe was confirmed by a 51-41 vote for a seat on the New York-based Second U.S. Court of Appeals. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Does your dog...
What do basketball, choir, drama club, and marching band all have in common? They're all high school activities that offer learning opportunities not necessarily found in the classroom. They take up just a fraction of a typical Wisconsin high school's budget, and they go a long way to giving young people the tools they need to thrive. High school activities, they're more than extracurricular. They're extra important, too. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Tune in to Matt Flynn Direct, weekdays from 2 to 3 on WRRD 1510 AM and Talk 92.7 FM Madison. We'll be covering all politics, national to local, from a Wisconsin perspective. This is an open mic, no holds barred, call on any political subject. That's Matt Flynn Direct, weekdays 2 to 3 on WRRD 1510 AM and Talk 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Cut you down.
For 101.7 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. The Kroger Company is planning to build a massive new warehouse in Pleasant Prairie. Kroger, which owns Pick and Save, says the facility could employ up to 400 people eventually. The warehouse will distribute goods to Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and northwest Indiana. Similar customer fulfillment centers are planned for or already open in Ohio, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and the Mid-Atlantic region. Kroger hopes to have at least 20 of the facilities eventually. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison tonight: mostly clear skies, lows around 20 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly sunny with highs in the mid-30s. You're listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock happy hour. And I've got to admit, with all this impeachment talk, we haven't checked into our own backyard politicians and guys like your buddy Ron Johnson. I do so wonder what Ron thinks about the impeachment of Donald J. Trump. His name was mentioned during testimony at least once that I observed yesterday, Dom. Barry Spikuza, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. U.S. Senator Ron Johnson calls Trump impeachment hearing a very sad farce. Hashtag sad. I'll read from the piece. U.S. Senator Ron Johnson dismissed the House impeachment hearings as a very sad farce in an interview with the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. He also disputed the idea that an irregular channel had been established when it came to relations between the United States and Ukraine, saying he doesn't believe there's anything wrong in having presidents use other people outside the normal diplomatic channels.
Okay,
to
so
what? Extort a foreign leader, Ron? You got no qualms?
I'm just wondering here, based on the writing, he disputed that an irregular channel has been established, but then goes on to say he doesn't believe there's anything wrong with people outside the normal diplomatic channels. Well, Rudy Giuliani certainly outside the normal diplomatic channels. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. Was there an irregular channel? Had that been established? Yes or no? And, of course, what is the purpose of that channel? That is ultimately what this is all about. This isn't a back channel during the Cuban Missile Crisis to, backdoor have conversations with the Russians to ease tensions. This is about a shakedown of a country besieged by Trump's buddies in Russia and trying to shake down information and have them start a false investigation into a political rival. But I digress.
Well, and Ron doesn't see it precisely that way, Dom. The Wisconsin Republican, who has become a key figure in the impeachment inquiry of Trump, came up again Wednesday during the opening day of hearings. Ambassador William Taylor mentioned Johnson in his opening statement when he spoke of the start of an irregular channel between the United States and Ukraine. Johnson was part of the U.S. delegation that attended the May 20th inauguration of President Zelensky, the Ukrainian guy. Others included former Ambassador Kurt Volker, with special envoy, who was special envoy to the Ukraine, European Union Ambassador Gordon Sondland, and U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry. Oops. Those three guys, Dom, I thought they were described as, the three amigos.
And didn't Rick Perry's, one of his donors get some sweetheart Ukrainian gas deal?
Yes, that is the other quid pro quo that we haven't talked about much. Perry goes over for the inauguration, and Perry pressures the new Ukrainian president to award natural gas leases to his campaign donor and crony. Well, I guess that wasn't Trump, so that's all good. And, Rick Perry quickly resigned, I noted, Dom. Here's the quote from Johnson, your buddy. The irregular channel began when Ambassador Volker, Ambassador Sondland, Secretary Perry, and Senator, this is from Taylor's testimony, and Senator Ron Johnson briefed President Trump on May 23rd upon their return from the inauguration, Zelensky's. The delegation was as enthusiastic as I would soon become about the new Ukrainian president and urged President Trump to meet with him early on to submit the U.S.-Ukraine relationship. But from what I understood from the participants, President Trump did not share their enthusiasm for a meeting with Zelensky. Johnson, Dom, we know this, is chairman of the Europe Subcommittee on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, and member of the Senate Bipartisan Ukraine Caucus. Volker, the U.S. envoy for Ukraine, reportedly briefed the delegation on reports that Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, was trying to get Ukraine to conduct investigations that would help Trump politically. Taylor has also said that when Johnson and Chris Murphy met with Zelensky in Ukraine, now Murphy is a Democratic senator, and that was a bipartisan mission, but they met with Zelensky on September 5th. Zelensky's first question was about the held-up security funds. On the impeachment hearings, Johnson said he watched for about an hour, over the noon hour. I don't think they really plowed any new ground, he said. Asked about the irregular channel, Johnson said he didn't share those concerns. I personally don't believe there's anything wrong in having presidents use people outside the normal diplomatic channels to engage in diplomacy. It happened throughout history.
Curdy Taylor has said he grew alarmed by August because the irregular, politically connected channel for foreign policy developed different objectives than the normal foreign policy channel maintained by the State Department. Johnson said he fears that some in the State Department and National Security Council don't really buy into the president's legitimacy. You don't back channel. You don't try and undermine the president's foreign policy. And I think that's kind of what's happening here, Johnson said. Well, the back channel was done by Giuliani. What's he talking about? I continue. Mary Spicuzza in the Journal Sentinel. Trump held up nearly $400 million in U.S. aid to Ukraine in July, and weeks later, on July 25th, asked Zelensky to do him a favor and investigate the 2016 election. And Joe Biden, the former vice president, now seeking the Democratic presidential nomination. Biden's son Hunter served on the board of a Ukrainian gas company. Trump's call with Zelensky triggered a whistleblower's complaint that led to the impeachment inquiry. Johnson winced, I tell you, at the possibility of such a connection and spoke to Trump Trump the next day. In their August 31st phone call, Johnson asked Trump whether Ukraine needed to do anything to get its aid, and Trump angrily insisted there was no quid pro quo, according to Johnson, and Johnson took him at his word. Johnson, during the call, asked Trump to give him the authority to tell Zelensky the aid would be provided to Ukraine, but Trump wouldn't give him that power. Trump told Johnson he would probably like the decision Trump would ultimately make on releasing the aid to Ukraine, according to Johnson. What's happened is this has been blown way out of proportion, he said. We've turned this into an impeachment inquiry when truthfully this should have just been done kind of quietly within the administration. Despite his close involvement in Ukraine issues, Johnson has said he would not recuse himself from a Senate impeachment trial of Trump. Johnson on Wednesday again defended Trump and his handling of foreign policy and aid to Ukraine. Final quote from Senator Ron Johnson: I don't know what the House is trying to do here. In the end, I think this is unfortunately a very sad farce on the part of the House.
Ron Johnson is right.
844-967-2789. Your opinions welcome here. Like you, Pete. Welcome back, man. What do you got for us?
Yeah, thank you for putting me on. I guess we'll have to call him Ron Janovovich or something because this guy is, holy man, he doesn't trust the FBI, doesn't trust the CIA, doesn't trust, obviously he didn't read the Mueller report. This guy...
Don't forget the National Security Council. He doesn't trust them either.
Yeah, he's just... What is he? Is he our senator or is he somebody else's senator? This guy
Russian Ron Johnson. Russian Ron Johnson spent the 4th of July in Russia. If we believe the prior news accounts, Ron had money funneled from Russians through the NRA for his political support in 2016, although he points out, well, that was after a certain date in history that, the consultancy contract ran out. But I still think he probably took the money and the aid from the NRA, which may have been Russian money. And ultimately, this whole Zelensky thing, the fact that Ron is right in the middle, and he was on our show, Pete, and you know this, when we question Ron Johnson's defense of this president is that the money was released on September 11th, in due course, under no strange or unusual circumstances. And I had to point out to him the very day before was the day that the public disclosure by Adam Schiff of the whistleblower report blew up in the newspapers. And Ron's response was,
Yeah, I think Ron actually claimed it was released prior to September 11th, I think was his claim.
Well, Ron's claim was, the money was released without any pressure. Trump did the right thing the whole time. There was no quid pro quo. The money was released. Well, only after the whistleblower report became public, Pete, or at least the knowledge that one existed.
Exactly. Yeah, he's really sad. I mean, he's the farce is what it is. He's exactly what he called the hearing. He's the farce.
Well, Pete, I don't disagree with you. I don't know why Dom keeps booking him on the show.
He keeps coming around, man. And it's about time we reach out to Senator Ron Johnson again. Obviously doing some interviews around town. Maybe we can snag him in the next couple of weeks. We'll see what happens. I don't know. People are talking about it.
Mike. We are the Devil's Advocates. Want to talk to you at 844-967-2789 and want to talk about the bastards running state government here in Wisconsin.
What?
And for a change, that's not Crudy's characterization. That's Tony Evers. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. It's Thursday. It's almost Friday. Impeachment Day 2 Eve. The happy hour, it continues. Come back with us.
No solution. Institution. Electrocution.
Ron
Johnson's right about
Ron
Johnson's being right.
If I were to guess, I have one name in mind.
The name Zelensky. I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
Oh, I see nothing. I was not here. I did not even get up this morning.
No big deal.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
Gingras, Thompson, and Wachs, the attorneys with more power, more fight, and the most heart, are here to serve you, Milwaukee. From personal injury to civil rights cases, we are determined to combat dishonesty and injustice. And our team brings the fight with integrity, passion, and dedication that never quits. Together, we right the wrong, and we are ready for battle. There are law firms, and then there is Gingras, Thompson, and Wachs. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators. As a small business, we understand growing pains. You know, those times in your business where you need more help to increase revenues, but you need more revenue to hire more help? Or you're ready to hire more people but can't figure out where to put them? At Madison Liquidators, in addition to offering office furniture at the most affordable prices, our staff is trained in offering superior layouts and designs. Come see us today to get started on your new or growing business, or view our inventory at madisonliquidators.com.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
Dedicated to all the pretty girls.
The Devil's Advocates may not agree on much, but funny is funny.
All the pretty girls in the world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I don't know if you know, but the governor of the great state of Wisconsin, after Republicans fired his, ag secretary, he went over to the ag department and he, tried to boost morale, talk to the fine public servants over there, and turn around and basically called in this private, semi-private meeting with lots of staff, called the Republicans that would do that bastard people, right?
And I'll tell you why I can't put up with you people, because you're bastard people.
Dominic, there were some Republicans that took note and some umbrage. We know that Voss did. We know that Fitzgerald did. But there is a state senator today that used the power of his office to exact a little revenge on Tony Evers. Talked about Steve Nass. State senator denies committee hearing over Evers' bastard comments. A Wisconsin state senator is refusing to hold a committee hearing to confirm Governor Tony Evers' appointment to lead the Labor Commission because Evers used language to describe senators' actions as stupid and immoral. Senator Steve Nass, who else, told a staffer for the governor in an email he won't hold a hearing because Evers considers him to be a bastard, immoral, stupid, and a political assassin.
Well, because you're bastard people.
So he's going to prove Evers right by not holding a hearing and doing the people's work because he got his feelings hurt.
Now, Dominic, I'm reading from WKOW.com's account. Their reporting thereof. This comes after the governor this month used profanity to describe his frustrations after Senate Republicans rejected to confirm his agricultural secretary, Brad Pfaff. It was the first time the Senate had fired a cabinet secretary since at least 1987. Evers' staff asked Senator Nass if Mike Gillick would be on the Senate Labor and Regulatory Reform Committee calendar in December. Gillick needs to be confirmed by the committee before serving a 6-year term as chairman of the Labor and Industry Review Commission. According to the commission's website, prior to Gillick's appointment, for almost 70 years, he represented injured workers in workers' compensation and related claims. Nass's rejection letter adds to the political divide between Evers and Republicans, which started in December after Republicans held an overnight session to pass lame duck laws to reduce his executive powers. The author of this, the Capitol Bureau Chief Emily Fannin over at Channel 27 in Madison. You know how Steve Nass was described by Wisconsin Speaker of the Assembly Robin Vos?
The Republican Robin Vos, as he described the senator during a what was that hullabaloo about?
Well, I believe it was about the budget, Tom, and trying to pass the budget. Now, this is the last budget. We're talking about the budget for Scott Walker's final budget. And hearkening back in the archives to way back in October of 2017.
Yeah.
Here's a headline you might remember. Robin Vos apologizes for calling GOP senators terrorists. Terrorists, Dom. Let me read briefly back from Mark Summerhouse's piece 2 years ago. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos has apologized for using the term terrorist to describe 3 Republican senators who struck a last-minute budget deal with Governor Scott Walker. In the statement Monday, Vos said the remark bucked his own efforts to make the legislature more civil. I now regret using the word terrorist because it goes against the guidelines I've set for our chamber and myself, Vos said. But Vos said he remains concerned about the demands of what he called rogue holdouts in the GOP legislative ranks. In the WISN TV interview that aired Sunday, Vos blasted 3 hardline conservative senators, Dom's favorite, Chris Kapinga from Delafield, Dewey Strobel from Saukville, Dirty Dewey, and there he is, Steve Nass, Republican from Whitewater, the terrorist, according to Robin Vos, for making what Vos called a backroom deal with Walker last month to enable passage of the 17-19 budget. I don't want to see the constant, defiant demands of a few derail our progress, Vos said. Hours before Vos's statement was released Monday, Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald, in a rare rebuke from one top Republican to another, said Vos should apologize for his choice of words. Nass and Americans for Prosperity, the Koch brothers, it says it right here, the influential Koch-funded conservative advocacy group, also called on Vos to apologize. Vos choosing to take this to the level so personal is severely inappropriate, Chris Kapinga said. Terrorist. That's how their own caucus described them, Dom.
Yeah, but Speaker Vos apologized after that. Do you think Governor Evers should come back now that Senator Nass has denied this hearing and apologize? Is it? And I don't think he should. I mean, too freaking bad. You know what? People get called names all the time. And the way the Republicans have behaved, and certainly the Republicans the president that these Republicans support, have no problem. Trump has no problem going off and calling people names. So how are you now going to be all butthurt because the governor called your ass out for being a petty bastard for what you guys are doing? You deserve those names. You earn them every single day. And if you don't like it, then perhaps you should push back against your own president who says very nasty things to people all the time.
Isn't that the ironic part? Isn't that the ironic part that any Republican would complain about the coarse language of Tony Evers
civility?
Or anybody else?
Yes, no doubt. They've lost. That's the whole point. They've lost any sense of moral ground on a multitude of issues because they continue to support a guy like Donald Trump. Governor Evers, stand your ground. To hell with these people. They're never going to get. They're going to fight you all the time. Every way they can. They'll do everything they can, and they are in fact freaking bastards. Own it. Don't you apologize.
Tony never apologized to me.
Hey, we know Tony's got a good grasp of the language.
Oh, he can use the expletives just fine.
Yeah,
I know this from very personal experience. Come back with us. We got a brand new sponsor. I'm going to introduce Amy Hopfinger Strauss with Homestead Realty, a brand new sponsor at Talk 92.7 FM. I love that song. Come back with us, a new sponsor. That makes me happy. Republicans, less so.
You want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page.
You've got a dirty, whorish mouth.
Because you're bastard people. That's what you are. You're just bastard people, and I'm going home and I'm gonna
Get your f***ing shine box.
Freedom.
Go to hell, you old bastard.
It's 4 a.m. and you're sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. If you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. It's 4 a.m. and you're sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. If you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santel, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin on historic Brady Street. The Roman Coin was originally a Pabst Tight House built by Frederick Pabst in 1890 to sell Pabst beer. It was even designed by the same architect who designed the Pabst Theater. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's historic, pet-friendly, cash-only, order-in classic corner tavern.
My congressman, our good friend Mark Pocan, if Donald Trump's under attack, Mark, are you worried about his inspired followers rising up and voting him to re-election?
I am trying to approach this with blinders on when it comes to the political side of it. If he has violated the Constitution, it is our obligation to do an impeachment. And I think from what I've read, I feel that. I think when we get some witnesses in, we'll really have full clarity on that. But if it was just political reasons, some people say, well, then you're going to get, Mike Pence, is that good? And you can second guess every decision we ever make in politics if it's just about politics. In this case, I think that you rise to the Constitution. And if he has violated the Constitution, which I believe he has, there's obstruction on multiple counts, then we have no choice but to do our constitutional job and go after that.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates interviews at DomandCroot.com. Click on the podcast tab and select interviews. That's DomandCroot.com.
1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison. I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Senator Ron Johnson is urging Donald Trump not to move forward with new restrictions for vaping products. According to the Journal Sentinel, the Trump administration is expected to soon release plans to restrict sales of vaping products, which have been tied to a surge of lung injuries and deaths, especially among younger people. The expected restrictions include raising the minimum age to buy e-cigarettes and vaping products from 18 to 21 and eliminating flavored vaping oils. Johnson has a close relationship with the vaping industry. In 2016, he thanked vapers on election night for helping him win, and a year later, he was the keynote speaker at a vaping industry conference at the Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C. You're listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, the happy hour, it continues. And I'm happy to announce we got a fine new sponsor. Got her here with me in the Talk 92.7 FM studios, Amy Hopfinger Strauss. Amy Hopfinger, Homestead Realty, welcome aboard.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Appreciate your new sponsorship. You're a realtor.
I am.
Realtor. Yes. I said that wrong.
Realtor. Yes, I was
come
going
on,
to
Crudy.
correct you.
They have people want to add another syllable,
do.
but
it's
it's
easy to do.
Realtor.
Mm-hmm, realtor.
Now, Amy, where do you concentrate your practice?
So we are a little unique. I have buyer agents that focus on Dane County. We also take care of Jefferson County, Dodge County, and we do some Waukesha County as well.
Oh, so a little bit of coverage area.
Yeah, we go quite a far way.
We happen to cover most of those locations ourselves. Now, does that mean you primarily handle listings for your team?
So I am the team leader and handle all the listings. And then we have 5 buyer experts that work with all of the buyers in the area.
Now, I understand it is something of a seller's market, Amy.
It is.
Do you perceive it as such?
Yeah, so the market is changing a little bit. Part of that is cyclical. You know, we're getting to Thanksgiving. It tends to slow down a little bit until Christmas. And then January generally picks up. But it's still a pretty crazy market out there. We listed 2 properties this week. In the first 2 days, we had over 6 offers. I mean, there's still that kind of stuff going on out there. Yeah. If a property shows well and is priced right, it will still sell pretty quickly. There's still low inventory in a lot of areas.
Now, Amy, I am married to a real estate appraiser.
Okay.
And she always has some very specific real estate advice. But certainly getting a home to its highest and best use. I hear her use this term.
Yes.
Sometimes not every home is ready for the marketplace, at least not ready to maximize. And when people see the flaws, and homes have flaws, but if people see the flaws, they often want massive discounts, don't they?
Yes. Especially nowadays, buyers expect everything to be perfect. And we have to remind our buyers, if you want a brand new house, let's build a brand new house. You're buying a used house. So it's going to come with things that are relative to the age and price. And generally, we are looking for structural defects, and those kind of things can bring on price adjustments.
Defects. By definition, a defect's a big problem.
Yes.
Something that would affect the value.
Right. But little cosmetic issues, paint, carpeting, maybe it could use a new kitchen, but the kitchen is functioning perfectly well. You know, they're not going to give you a huge discount because of that in this market if it's priced correctly from the start.
Amy, those that have listened to the Devil's Advocates for a period of time know that I used to own a brokerage, but I didn't do traditional real estate. I used to rent people single-family homes, and I no longer own that place. So until that guy starts advertising, we won't talk about that. But, Amy, here is what I would do.
Sure.
I would look for the listings that said, like, carpet credit. You know, people that so obviously were throwing up their hands and saying, we don't want to fix it.
Right.
And if they wouldn't want to fix it, I knew that the probability that they would get a fair price at sale was low. And a house like that could be put into rental fleet.
Right.
Or it needs to be brought to its highest and best use.
Exactly.
So, Amy, that's where, if I understand correctly, that's where you differentiate from a lot of the brokers or a lot of the realtors in town. You've got a good team, and you can help people understand what's the highest and best use, what can you improve that will help you and will go hopefully directly to your bottom line. Amy, what's that process look like?
Well, the nice thing about us is we do have a team, so you are always getting everybody at their best. Our buyer agents, they really, really do a great job of finding those properties. I do an excellent job of listing the properties. You know, we're going to come over and take a look at your property. We would rather hurt your feelings now than lie to you, like a lot of agents will, to get our sign up.
I'll get you $1 million.
Yes, and then you're mad at us 6 months later. So it's a pretty involved process. We look through the home. We talk about anything that might affect somebody getting a loan. We talk about all the cosmetic stuff, and we give you your options. Here here's what you're going to get for this property if you do these things. Here's what you're going to get if you don't. Let's either bring the property to its highest potential or let's price it correctly for what it is. We do have a really cool program. It's called Sell Without Listing. So a lot of sellers aren't quite ready to put their home on the market, or maybe they don't want to sign up. They don't want mother-in-law to know they're moving. Maybe they have little kids or pets and don't want to be leaving for showings all the time, keep the house showing ready. So we will market it to our buyers. We will not put it in MLS. We won't do the normal marketing. My buyer agents, because of the buyer program we offer, have hundreds of buyers that are ready, willing, and able, and there's still low inventory out there. So there's a good chance that we can match one of those buyers up with your property, and we won't have to list it. So it's super convenient. And many people will think, well, am I going to get a great price if you're not marketing it out to the public? Many buyers will pay a premium price in this market to not have to compete with other buyers.
That makes sense. Then practically what happens? Somebody, a buyer that your brokerage represents, says, hey, if you got anything, let me know. And you say, well, I got a guy considering it.
Yes.
Then what happens? Do you have to approach the seller with a single party listing and say, I got a guy wanting to write you an offer, just sign this single party listing, and you'd be eligible to consider this singular offer? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, sometimes there's a few different options. It depends if now the buyers that are in this specific program are under contract with us.
Yes.
So we can bring them to the property without having a listing contract with the seller.
Sure.
So it just depends. There's a few different ways that we can structure it, but we make it really easy for everybody.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocate radio show. That's Amy Hopfinger from Homestead Realty. She joins Crudy in the Talk 92.7 FM Madison studios. Amy, appreciate talking with you today. I actually have the opportunity here, maybe in a few years. My kids are in high school, and I've been, looking around thinking maybe I'll be getting out of that home and maybe going to a condo or an apartment and, getting away from the whole
I bet your neighbors are looking forward to that day as well.
Getting away from the whole maintenance thing. But this is a good conversation. What about windows, right? So I have a house built in the 40s. I probably should, redo the windows. I can really tell when it's getting cold out that maybe that should be done. But if I'm not going to be there very long, to go through the whole process to put that much money in to try to get that much money out, what do you recommend to people in my kind of situation? They're on the horizon, maybe 3-4 years. There's some work to be done, but it could be postponed. Do you think people should jump in and do that if they have the finances in order to do so, and basically swap that money, get it out later? Or should they just let it slide and let the next buyer worry about that?
It really depends on what those items are. Windows can go either way. It's one of those things that buyers do look at. If they look at the property and realize they're going to have to replace all the windows in that first year, that scares them. That's a big expense. So that can affect the sale of the property. Windows are one of those things I would consider doing if you have the money to do it. A lot of people make the mistake of adding decks or making their garages bigger, even finishing their basements a lot of times, and you're not always going to get your money out of that. Bathrooms and kitchens are the big thing that you want to stick your money in. Anything structural, same with the roof. You're not necessarily going to get more for your house because there's a new roof, but if the roof is at the end of its life and the buyers see that when they are at the home, it's going to affect their decision on what they offer for the property, or if they move forward making an offer.
You mentioned decks. How about pools, Amy? How does that affect the house?
Most of the buyers that I work with really don't care for pools. I have a few buyers that will say, don't show me anything with a pool unless the seller's going to remove it. It's a lot of upkeep. In Wisconsin, we don't use them for more than a few months, and most of the time you're not going to get any more money generally for having a pool unless it's some amazing indoor thing that they can use all year round. But otherwise, I generally say only add a pool if it's because you really want a pool.
Yeah,
you're not going to get any more money for your home.
And what about landscaping? Is that something, some people have very basic...
Curb appeal.
Yeah. Is that something, again, if you're looking at a timeline of within a few years, is that something that people should be putting their money, time, and effort into prior to selling the house in a couple of years?
Landscaping, you probably don't want to put a ton of money into it. You know, you want to make sure that you keep everything trimmed and looking nice, so there's good curb appeal. If anything, I would focus more on the exterior. Does the exterior need to be painted? That kind of thing. Buyers are going to look at it as a whole, not necessarily, how professionally landscaped is it.
Now, Amy, we realize every market is local, so you named a Dane County, Jefferson County, Waukesha County, potentially three very distinct markets.
Yes.
Are there any markets that are better? Are there any communities, be it in Dane County or nearby, any places where you're particularly looking for listings or have buyers and really could use some new properties?
Sure. Yeah, we always have Madison area buyers. Generally, though, all those counties are pretty hopping right now. We have low inventory, we have a lot of buyers, and not enough properties. So I would say if you are in any of those counties, we can sell your home.
I know. Pardon me. Mm-hmm. My wife has been busy as the proverbial one-legged guy in a kicking contest.
I bet.
As a real estate appraiser, I always assume that's a function of either increasing or decreasing interest rates. How has the financing been? When I left the industry or turned towards rentals, in large part it was because in 2008, the real estate mortgage market was crumbling. Mm-hmm. Available financing, do you guys have a lender partner that you recommend? How's that work for your team?
Yeah, we have about 4 lenders that we work with consistently that we trust. And, it's really important that our buyers have access to everything that's out there, especially the FHA programs, USDA programs, things like that.
Low down payment stuff.
Yeah, so we can get buyers in these homes. Interest rates have been so good that I have buyers that will qualify for conventional, have the 20% down, but they'd rather keep that in their pocket and use that money. So they'll go something like FHA. But it's pretty strong. It's still strong. We are seeing, loans go through. I don't see many loans get denied. It's very important that no matter what agent you're working with, that you do work with a lender that they recommend. There's a lot of lenders out there that will promise you the world, but it's really important to ask your agent, because who knows better than your real estate agent, how these lenders operate and which ones can close deals and which ones can't.
Well, there are better and worse agents. I certainly know that. And I would say, what's the old rule? 20% of the people do about 80% of the business.
For sure.
Amy, how long has your brokerage been in existence? How comfortable do you feel, if you know your numbers? Are you guys, at least relative to size, are you guys doing your part?
Oh, absolutely. So I've been personally in the business for about 15 years. Our team is fairly new. We are a couple years old, but all of my agents are closing deals every month. We'll close over 120 homes this year.
Wow.
Just us. So yeah, we're all working full time. We're working hard, and we have happy clients.
And if people want to do business with Homestead Realty, how would they get started? How do they contact your team?
Sure. So you can either come to our website. It's www.mywihomefinder.com. That's mywihomefinder.com. Or you can start by just giving me a call or even shoot me a text, 920-296-3013.
And what if they're tire kickers like Dom, just looking for free real estate advice about whether or not to buy windows? Will that irritate you, or do you realize you got to answer some of the dumb questions now to get good clients later?
Of course not. We answer a lot of dumb questions.
Thank you, Amy.
No question is dumb, and that's what we do. We're here to give you advice. We don't want you to make mistakes. It just makes it harder to sell your home when you're ready down the road.
Amy Hopfinger.
Yes.
Homestead Realty, brand new sponsor on Talk 92.7 FM. If you need a realtor, please consider reaching out to Amy and her team. Amy, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again, perhaps around the holidays.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Amy.
We are the Devil's Advocates. Come back with us. Phone lines open. One last segment. You got something to say, you better start dialing. 844-967-2789.
I alone can fix it.
Talk 101.7 FM will be broadcasting the first debate of the Wisconsin Supreme Court primary on Tuesday, November 19th. Live coverage begins at noon with exclusive debate broadcasts from 12:30 to 1:30, brought to you by Teamsters Local 200. Tune in on November 19th for a debate with Marquette Law Professor Ed Falone, Dane County Judge Jill Karofsky, and Justice Dan Kelly. Listen live to the first debate of the Supreme Court primary on November 19th, only on Talk 101.7 FM, Milwaukee. Always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators. As a small business, we understand growing pains. You know, those times in your business where you need more help to increase revenues, but you need more revenue to hire more help? Or you're ready to hire more people but can't figure out where to put them? At Madison Liquidators, in addition to offering office furniture at the most affordable prices, our staff is trained in offering superior layouts and designs. Come see us today to get started on your new or growing business, or view our inventory at madisonliquidators.com.
Tune in to Matt Flynn Direct, weekdays from 2 to 3 on WRRD 1510 AM and Talk 92.7 FM Madison. We'll be covering all politics, national to local, from a Wisconsin perspective. This is an open mic, no holds barred. Call on any political subject. That's Matt Flynn Direct, weekdays 2 to 3 on WRRD 1510 AM and Talk 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Cut you down.
The Devil's Advocates, so relevant they have 1 foot in tomorrow.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, now is your final opportunity at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, a new sponsor, Amy Hopfinger, Homestead Realty. We appreciate their sponsorship. If you need a realtor, consider using their services. And I know we've got competing last stories of the day. I've been kind of bossy and sort of jerky to you. I've been something of a bastard today, so
today,
I'll defer to
for
you.
like 25 years, dude.
No, just mostly today. I'm a little grumpy today.
Let me throw this one out there. We're talking local here in Wisconsin. Governor Evers, this one relates a little bit. Molly Beck from the Journal-Sentinel. Lafayette County leaders who wanted to prosecute reporters would have kept the public in the dark if they hadn't abandoned the effort, Governor Evers said on Wednesday. A county board in southwestern Wisconsin on Tuesday shelved its plans to prosecute journalists and discipline elected officials over how they handle information about the county's water quality. That's a
little disappointing that we can't look forward to prosecution. Under what statute? I'm not clear.
Oh, man, you know how to just throw something out there to see, man. Beg them to arrest me. Evers said Wednesday the leaders would have brought attitudes from President Donald Trump's administration to Wisconsin's local government. Are they Republicans in Lafayette County? Do you know? I don't know.
There might be a few. It's rural Wisconsin, I suspect.
Here's what Evers said. I think taking on the media is not a really good idea. They're there for a reason. Obviously, we see that playing out in Washington, D.C. If we want to have our story told and people understanding what government is doing, we need a media that feels comfortable asking difficult questions, just like all of you do with me. That's a great point, Tony. I'd love you to come on the show. 844-967-2789. Evers said putting journalists in a position to defend themselves legally for asking difficult questions is not where we should be as a country or as a state. The push to change how information about water quality is released came in response to an August study that showed 32 of 35 private wells that had earlier been found to be contaminated continued to have contamination. The study and the dust-up ensued highlighted the sensitivity in rural Wisconsin of well contamination and who was responsible for the problem. The study of the 35 wells was taken from locations in Lafayette, Grant, and Iowa counties. Scientists traced the well contamination to both human and livestock sources. Some officials were frustrated by how those results were reported and pushed back by initially pursuing the resolution that said journalists would be prosecuted if they did not quote a county news release verbatim when they wrote about the issue in the future. I mean,
no paraphrasing, paraphrasing. You'll go to jail.
Freaking kidding me? On what? What?
You know, under Scott Walker, a lot of press releases from the gubernator's office were printed verbatim. I always took a lot of issue with that, Dom.
Curdy, a committee... Yeah, right. I'm with you there. The committee stepped away from prosecuting journalists with a revised version of its resolution, but the new proposal still raised alarms among free speech proponents because it threatened to punish officials who talk publicly without getting permission from the government.
A little chilling prior restraint, I think that's called, Dom.
Under it, county supervisors and other officials could have been subjected to discipline if they spoke about water quality studies without first getting permission from a panel of county officials. Ultimately, the board abandoned the entire effort. Evers said he's happy they did. Now, help me
I like the new Mother May I rule.
Help me understand this. So what? The county officials are upset that the public is aware of through the reporting of journalists that these wells are wells are contaminated.
Here's the problem. As they perceived it, the Lafayette County Board or whoever proposed this asinine motion, it was a retest of contaminated wells that found that 92% of the wells were still contaminated. The way it was reported, 92% of wells contaminated, the headlines, according to the Lafayette County Board, very misleading. If you read a headline, 92% of the wells in Lafayette County are contaminated, well, it would be problematic. You know, it might affect property values, people's willingness to move to the area. So anyways, I get that it's problematic when the media gets it wrong or you don't like the headline they've written for you. Hell, I rewrite headlines every day around here, Dom.
Right, no doubt.
But ultimately, yes, if you tell people what they can or cannot say as a governmental body, you're probably doing so in an unconstitutional fashion because we have a First Amendment. And one other quick note. Tony Evers, before you criticize others, release your calendar. I mean, open records request. Guy won't even release a single day of emails. You know, be transparent yourself, please, sir.
Yes. They all work for the people. Governor Evers works for the people. These county elected officials work for the people. If you don't like the way the story is written, you could do your op-ed into the paper. What, you're going to try to use the power of your office to persecute journalists because they didn't write it the way you wanted it to? Now, then you're going to back away from that and then tell, the elected board members that they must do it how you want it done? Public information, they can't paraphrase? What, if someone mentions it, they have to read the entire document verbatim? I mean, the fact that these thoughts even go through their heads is disgusting to me. I mean, ultimately, of course, from my opinion, this is more of the Trumpism coming out of people. They don't like it. They're going to force you to do it how they want it to be done. And I don't know if these are Dems or Republicans, but anytime you're going to have an effort to squash people's free speech rights, as a governmental official, you have, as far as I'm concerned, basically self-impeached. You should resign and walk away in shame. # walk away.
Well, Dominic, you better be careful driving through Lafayette County. You may not find many fans there. They might try to arrest your ass like Scott Walker did.
Yeah, 844. You can try.
Well, he did. You know, sure, you sued him. What a big settlement. It doesn't mean they can't try and succeed. You're an easy man to arrest. Brock, you got the last 30 seconds. What's your final thought of the day, sir?
I really wish everybody would take as much care reading the First Amendment and applying it as they do to misinterpreting the Second Amendment and forcing that down everybody's throat. I think if you really want to say whatever you do, you just pay somebody a lot of money because money now is free speech also. Another misinterpretation I wager made by people with, I don't know, less than enough credentials to serve on, I don't know, the Supreme Court, let's just say. I wonder, like you said, I think it's the Trumpism coming out in people, and I wonder when people are going to realize that doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit the small guy. It doesn't benefit you or me, but corporations seem to like it, and I'm surprised in Lafayette County they found wells that weren't contaminated.
Brock, appreciate your phone call. You know, if the Journal-Sentinel goes under or gets sold off to big hedge fund managers, there may be no more local journalism. Except the Devil's Advocates will be here every weekday between 3 and 6, and then we'll hand it off to a fine product like Maggie Dawn of the Resistance. She's coming up next.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!
Go to hell, you old bastard.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771.